Hello, I am back, and probably gonna be a bit quieter because I feel like it's getting late. But hi, I wanted to do this again soon because I wanted to see if I can do it better, and the first one kind of got me thinking about what I would even want to talk about for like a proper first episode, and it reminded me of one of my favorite mangas ever, period. And I was like, I haven't read this one in a really long time. And maybe this is a chance to revisit it because it is one that I tend to revisit a lot throughout my life. And so there's a blizzard today. So I was like, this is the chance. This is the chance. But before we even get into Shimanami Tasogare, a friend of mine had gifted me in my episode 0. I was like, I've never read Secret XXX, and I kind of been I've been avoiding reading it. And so a friend of mine so kindly purchased it for me and had it like got it to my hands. So I have a physical copy of Secret XXX, and there's no way like I would just not read it. And so I did. I read it today, along with binge reading Shimanami Tasogare, Our Dreams at Dusk. So I kind of want to do a zero point 0.5 episode and quickly talk about Secret XXX, which, wait, I do have my diagram from last time, which is actually kind of garbage. And just to share my little thoughts about it. There's not there's not that much I have to say about Secret XXX, to be honest, but I do feel like, you know, they were it was fun, it was cute, and it's worth talking about because I have it. I have it now. It's a part of my collection, which I mentioned last time. I own Therapy Game. I don't have Therapy Game Restart because I'm actually kind of like trying to wait to collect it so that like it's not just like taking up a bunch of space or like waiting for the perfect opportunity to collect it. Like if someone wants to get me a gift or something, I can be like, well, there's a series I love. So I don't have Restart, but I have the two books in Therapy Game. And then I have Hinohara Meguru's art book. I purchased that. And then recently I have 3 Dear Plus magazines with Therapy Game covers. So I'm a huge fan. And I have their Nendroid. So I'm a huge fan, and this book now gets to be a part of my collection for this mangaka that I am obsessed with. And so, where to even begin? I guess general summary? I think general summary is going to kind of blur into other things, and obviously because I talked about Therapy Game, the world and society is kind of the same. And I don't know if there's anything in particular that stuck with me in Secret XXX, but I'm sure I'll find something as I'm talking about it. So Secret XXX begins with Ikushima Shohei. He really loves bunnies. He really loves cute animals because his family, both of his parents work at like are vets or work at the zoo. So he's always grown up with very scary and intimidating animals, and so he finds himself more drawn to smaller, adorable animals like bunnies. However, since he was young, he's discovered that he's actually allergic to them, unfortunately, and so he's been told by his mother to avoid bunnies for his own health and safety. But he can't help himself, and he keeps passing by this little pet shop that specializes in bunnies, and like breeding them and like offering them and providing them with care and grooming services, etc. And not only does he really like the bunnies there, he really likes the guy who works there, who's this dude. Now that I've had read Secret XXX, I feel like I drew him kind of badly. Well, I drew all of them badly, but I feel a little bad. but at the same time, I think I drew him accurately. I have this like I'm a little torn about how to feel. I have a lot of feelings about Itsuki. I don't know how to feel about him, to be honest. Um, but Itsuki's there, and Shohei is kind of like has a huge crush on him and really likes him, and that's another reason why he keeps showing up to this pet shop. Um, the story moves kind of fast, where like he's struggling to hide his allergy while at the pet shop, so he keeps leaving quickly and being like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't work here, but I'll help you guys out for like an hour or two." Um, to me, I'm kind of like, is it really that big of a deal? But I think, that's just kind of how the story is being built, in that he has this secret XXX that he is trying to keep. Throughout the story, he gets closer to Itsuki, and Itsuki asks him for a favor, and in the process of that favor, he finds out that, like, well, during the favor, because he ends up interacting with bunnies, it does cause an allergic reaction. So, oh no, his secret is out. But then it's kind of revealed that, like, maybe, okay, well, his secret is out, and then he's just like, yeah, I have allergies and I like you. It's really sudden. Like, I think it, like, happens, like, literally in the first chapter. Like, he confesses so quick in just, like, a handful of pages. I was like, whoa, they're moving fast. I mean, my one critique about Therapy Game was that they moved fast, but these guys move even faster. But I guess it's kind of it kind of goes to show that Hinohara Meguru's what they are best at is not necessarily the getting together, but it's the what happens after they get together. And so maybe that's why, like, we're like, just let them get together, we'll get that over with. But then once they're together, that's where the real meat begins. And that's really it's really rare, I think, for these types of stories. So props to her. So they get together and find out that he's actually allergic to the rabbit's food, like the hay, I think, rather than the bunnies themselves. So then he's able to start working there, and it's really cute how they get to work together and be all lovey-dovey. But then it seems like Itsuki is like dealing with something and is trying not to tell Shohei about it. He's trying to keep it to himself, and Shohei's like, "Oh man, this guy doesn't trust me." And he starts feeling really bad about it, and then he spots Itsuki with this blonde dude in the car, and he's like, "What the heck? Is he cheating on me?" Well, I don't think he thinks like, "Is he cheating on me?" He thinks more like, "Who is that? And why didn't he tell me that he was meeting up with someone?" I think that's more his concern rather than like cheating. I don't think he has any like doubts. He's just more like, they're really close. Why didn't he just be honest with me and say that he's meeting with like some dude? And then lo and behold, this dude is my fave, Minato. At this point, we don't know that they're related. We're supposed to not know that they're related. But Minato wants to stir up some trouble because he always does. And kind of like tells a bunch of lies about his brother, and then ends up being like, "Oh, don't you know he's like he's doing prostitution and whatever." And Shohei's like, "What? If that's true, then is he okay? Like, is he safe? Should I like maybe I need to go and help him. Like, maybe he shouldn't have to do that kind of stuff if he doesn't want to, you know." And like Minato brings him to the bar, which is in Therapy Game we mentioned with Mama and the girls, and this is I guess technically the first time we are introduced to them. I didn't know that, so there's a lot of things that I didn't know, and I'm learning for the first time from Secret XXX, and part of me is like, I guess it would have been fine for me never to know these things, but now that I know them, I'm like, wow, there's a lot more than I thought. Or like there's some details that like I kind of overlooked, I guess. Like I didn't know. So I always thought Mama was the only one running the bar, but no, she has a husband who is kind of like the bouncer. I didn't know that part. Uh, and then like Shizuma's also in this story. I mean, I'll get to that. The way Shizuma looks and behaves in this story is so funny. This dude, the way he looks and behaves in this story is so funny because it's so OOC to me. You can kind of tell that like the story was written first, so like his character wasn't really developed. Um, he's just like here and there. He's just like, yeah, Shohei has an older brother. Um, but like it's so funny to try and match beats in Secret XXX 2 therapy game and them like not really matching up at all. Like some things don't line up, but I don't blame her. I don't blame the mangaka because I bet when they were writing Secret XXX, they didn't know. Oh my god, they didn't know that it was gonna evolve into anything else. So you couldn't plan for that. But I'll get to Shizuma's character in the story later because I just think it was silly. I like it like made me laugh a little bit. So Minato takes him to the bar and turns out yeah, Itsuki is not a prostitute. He's just like temporarily being the bouncer for the club because Mama's husband is injured at the moment. And Minato was just goofing around. Itsuki's like a little bit upset about it, but it turns out that it was for the better because Shohei can finally say how he feels, being like, I like I wish you could trust me. Like stop saying it's not my business. I feel like it is my business because I want to be someone that you can rely on, So they make up and it's pretty sweet. And it's kind of like the theme of this story. Um things resolve really easily because it is a very simple story compared to therapy game restart specifically. Like I think in therapy game things also resolve kind of easily, um, but it's more just because the characters are reasonable, so they're like level-headed. So the drama isn't that deep to begin with. But I think in therapy game restart, issues are not as easily resolved as like, oh, now we understand each other, because it was never about the problems in therapy game restart were never about misunderstanding. They were about the trials and tribulations of daily life. Oh, that they both understand already, but they just have to learn to adjust to. Anyway, that's a little tangent because I love therapy game. Um, but the theme of Secret XXX is more just like both of them had their own secrets. Both of them had their own secrets, and they have to learn to open up to each other and recognize that like despite those things that they thought were really important to keep secret were actually not that serious at all, and if anything their trust should be more serious, or their faith in each other is more valuable. So that was really sweet. And then we also see Minato and Shizuma here too. This is supposedly the moment when Shizuma comforts Minato at the bar. Therapy game made it seem like Minato got like his ass whooped by Itsuki and he was like really upset about it. But looking at Secret XXX, he barely got yelled at. Okay, he barely got yelled at. And he's just like he's he's barely sulking. He's like barely sulking in my opinion. Minato's just like, meh. I just wanted to have some silly fun, but it's because I really care about him. Like, he's not even, like, mad that Itsuki was like, dude, stop messing around. but Shizuma's there anyway, being drunk off his butt, consoling him. It's really silly. I think they played it out better in, like, I think therapy game made it seem more deep, and now I'm like, oh, it wasn't that deep, actually. and that kind of um and that kind of leads into another thought I had, is that I whenever I was reading therapy game restart especially, I always thought that Itsuki and Minato were like had a lot of differences, or not a lot of differences, but I kind of like saw them as like being very different from each other. Where like Itsuki is always very calm and gentle and like smiling, and Minato is always like the one who gets agitated, or like is really passionate like confident or upset, speaks his mind. And so they're kind of like opposites in that like Itsuki represses while Minato it projects. So I thought they were different. But after reading Secret XXX, I think they're actually a lot more similar than I thought. Like they really do take after each other in the sense that um they both have things about themselves that they desperately want to repress and work really hard to repress, and have to learn that like they don't have to repress those things, which is kind of cute, which is kind of beautiful. I also was surprised that their backstory was like slightly mentioned in Secret XXX as well, because the way Therapy Game is set up, their backstory almost seems like a reveal at the very end. But actually, no, it was like, I mean, it is revealed at the end of Secret XXX as well, but only like briefly. But I was like shocked they mentioned it at all. But that is because, and this is the biggest like addition to my knowledge of their lore that this book offered me. I knew about the Ikushimaa's mother. I didn't know she was a vet actually, but I knew that like she had interacted with Minato in the past in Secret XXX, but I didn't know the full details because they do interact in Therapy Game Restart very briefly, and it seems like they're like besties. Minato and Shizuma's mom are like besties already from the get go. Before the two of them even really like get together or anything, he's already besties with their mom. And I was like, I just accepted it, like I didn't question it. But here, it's an entire arc, and now you know why. Now I know why, they're besties. Where Shohei gets into a fight with his mom because he forgets to take his allergy medication, and she kind of freaks out about it, being like, dude, like, how can you have this job if you're going to be so negligent for your health? Like, you should just quit. She's not a mean mom, but I think she just got a little bit too worked up and was like, and was like, uh, she's like, you gotta go tell them you're gonna quit. If you can't do that, then you can just move out and live on your own right now. So she kicks him out. And obviously, Shohei has nowhere to go aside from Itsuki. So he goes to Itsuki, and like, Itsuki's in the middle of working on some like bunny patch, and I don't really know. And so Shohei's like watching over this rabbit in the hotel room. But then the rabbit is, well, before the rabbit situation, Shohei's like, yeah, I ran away from home. And he's like, no, no, no. You can't do that. You can't do that. You should make up with your family members. Otherwise, I'm gonna lay you off. You're getting laid off from the rabbit shelter. I think it was really nice and mature of him, and it makes a lot of sense for his character as someone who didn't have parents growing up. So naturally, he would value family, or he would see that like, family is worth salvaging. And so, while Shohei is watching over the rabbit while Itsuki is away, turns out the rabbit is not feeling well, and the only person Shohei can call is his mom, who is a vet. And that's kind of how, well, his mom is a vet, so she's the only one he can call. And he's like, but how do I get her here? Or how do I get the rabbit to her? And, oh, guess who's there? Oh, guess who's there? My king, my favorite, my Kinney. I should just admit that I low-key kin this guy, but I also refuse to admit that I just kin a bunch of bratty blondes. He's in my list. He's in my list with Kave Genshin Impact, and low-key I've added if people know, Sweetheart Trigger. Oh man, what a deep cut. I've added Cole to my list of bratty blondes, but Cole is like the hydrogen bomb next to two coughing babies, and I think it's really funny that my trio of blondies is so disproportionate. But anyway, I love Minato. Minato happens to be there, and Shohei's like, "Can you like bring my mom here?" And so Minato like gets on his motorcycle and like rides Shohei's mom to the hotel. So that's why Minato and Shizuma's mom are like besties. Which I think is really funny. The thing in therapy game restart about Minato and their and Shizuma's mom was that even though they're besties, even though they are besties, um, Itsuki and Shohei are already out to her. Like she already knows about their relationship. It actually happens in Secret XXX. She knows about their relationship, and they do end up living together. They end up moving in together. Which is also like weird timing in Secret XXX because them moving in together gets mentioned in Therapy Game Restart, and I thought it happened like way later, but no, it happens in Secret XXX, and it happens so quickly. Why are things moving so fast? Whereas like in Therapy Game Restart, it made it seem like so much shit happened between Minato and Shizuma before these other two dudes are like, hey, by the way, we're moving in together. Like the pacing feels like all over the place. I was really having a hard time wrapping my head around it just because I'm a nerd. It's a me problem, not a her problem. She wouldn't have known. How would she have known, right? That this one story would expand into this whole universe. So in Therapy Game Restart, I'm just gonna talk about this real quick because I didn't talk about this. I didn't talk about this in the last episode, but I feel like it is kind of important because it adds to how Secret XXX doesn't really talk about actual like LGBTQ plus issues because their secrets are kind of like irrelevant. Like I have allergies and um, I work in this club with a bunch of drag queens. Like those things aren't really embarrassing, but in Therapy Game Restart, oh gosh, what is going on out there? In Therapy Game Restart, like it actually is a bit more serious. It is a bit more deep. Like the way these two are able to come out is like really easy, but for them, these two, it's a lot harder. So Minato is just like hanging out casually with Shizuma's mom because they're besties. And Shizuma's mom kind of talks about like, yeah, your brother Itsuki and Shohei, like they moved in together, and it's really nice and sweet. But I wonder what's gonna happen with Shizuma? Like, when is he gonna get a girlfriend or something? And I hope it's a really nice girl, yada yada yada. Because his mom doesn't know that they're actually together. His mom may be Minato's bestie, but she doesn't know that they're together. And then it puts Minato in a really awkward spot because he kind of has to like play along with it while also knowing that like he's literally dating her son also. And this kind of like gets into his head a little bit, Minato's head, where he's like, fuck, like she wants Shizuma to date a girl. Like she was okay with Shohei dating my older brother, but like is she going to be okay with both of her sons being gay? And like he almost he almost gets a little tripped up about it. I think I think at the moment it got brushed off a little bit, but I think it's gonna come back. It was more like it happened, and Minato's like thinking about it, and then Shizuma notices that something happened. He's like, what did you talk about with my mom? And Minato's trying really hard to hide it, and I think they kind of dropped it because other things happen because they have lives. But I think it's gonna come back. I think like it's gonna come loop back around later. I think it's like a seed that's being planted. So, looking forward to that, but also I'm scared. But it's very fascinating, like just like the difference in this treatment, and I can also see, like from a very Asian perspective, I can definitely also see how like, uh, it's because Shizuma is the older sibling, and so maybe that's why the mom is more concerned. You know, Shohei is the younger sibling, so it's like doesn't really matter. But Shizuma's the older sibling who like really has his life together, is like a proper vet now, taking after her footsteps. Like it makes sense that um, she probably has never considered that he would deviate in some way. So very fascinating, very interesting. Looking forward to seeing how that plays out in Therapy Game Restart. Back to Secret XXX though. Um, yeah. Anyway, the thing with his mom gets resolved because she kind of finds out that they're together, and it's all dandy. The story ends all perfectly good. So I'm gonna jump a little bit and talk about Minato and Shizuma's characters in Secret XXX. It's not that. Wait, well, no, actually, hey, I should be respectful. I know they're my. I'm like biased as fuck. Like they're my favorites. I just want to talk about them, but no, no, no. I'm gonna be respectful. I'm gonna talk about these two guys first. Specifically Itsuki. I think Shohei. I don't have a lot to say about him because he's really young. He's like 21, and so I feel like a lot of his behaviors are kind of believable. Like he's he's still a little naive, and it's kind of cute and endearing how like he's a really kind soul, you know, but in like a more cute, goofy kind of way. He's definitely more dorky than Shizuma. I mean, it's like you can definitely tell that they're related and they're siblings because of how like trusting and like devoted they are. Um, but Shizuma definitely like has his shit together and is like, oh my god, and is very princely. And then he's just like little baby. Maybe this is like the hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby. Shizuma is the hydrogen bomb, and Shohei is the coughing baby. But that's not an insult. I think he's really cute, and I think it makes sense. Like his character made a lot of sense to me. There was nothing like that I had any gripes with. I think he should be allowed to be very cute and like preserve his peace and joy and whimsy. Um, and he's happy. The thing is like in Therapy Game Restart or like in Therapy Game, they really make it seem like Shohei and Minato are like out to get each other. Or no, no, Minato doesn't really. No, Minato kind of sees Shohei as like a gremlin. He's like, that's the gremlin that my brother likes. And then, but then Shohei for some reason like really is terrified of Minato. Like he's like scared, not terrified, but he's just like, gah. Like every time like Minato shows up, he's like that like frightened cat that's like, God, this dude. And I'm just like kind of confused now because I thought something more serious happened between them. But knowing what I know now, like in Secret XXX, Minato was actually like really nice to him. I'm not gonna lie, I'm just a Minato glazer, but like Minato was really nice to Shohei. Like what he did helped them. What he did, like okay, yes, he lied to Shohei at the beginning, but it ended up like it was his test, and it wasn't even that bad of a test. I thought he was gonna do something much worse. Um, it was a test, and like Shohei passed, and so Minato did continue to like help him. When he was like, "I want to see my brother," he brought him to his brother. When he's like, "I want to see my brother dressed up as a girl," Minato was like, "I got you. This is the only photo left." So like, I kind of feel like Minato was really nice, or like a lot nicer than I was expecting. I thought he was gonna be mean, so I'm kind of like, why are you acting like he's scary? Why you like jumping every time you see him? Like, you guys should be homies too. Like at this point, you guys should be besties too. I don't know what's going on. But about Itsuki though, this guy is so fascinating, and I don't know how to feel about him. I think like I don't know how to feel about him. Maybe because like maybe maybe because he's such a like and he's so mysterious. Even in this book, he's so mysterious. Like I just like there doesn't like he's too mysterious. I can't crack the code on this dude. Um, I can't. Yeah, I can't. I just can't crack the code on this dude, and like, it's like a little bit odd. It's like okay, like I get it. Like he doesn't. It's not like he has any like crazy schemes or motivations. Like it makes sense. Like he thinks this dude is cute, so he likes him, and reciprocates his confession. Like it's all really simple, and like he accepts him and everything. But like, but like he also seems so mysterious. He seems a little scary. Like I'm like, what does he think? I never know. But he is very similar to Minato, and they both keep things to themselves, and they don't realize that they can open up to other people. I thought that was only a situation with Minato, but I guess it makes sense that like Itsuki is also because they share the same trauma from their family and their mom being kind of cuckoo, crazy. They're both traumatized and like scared of exposing their imperfections. I feel like Minato is he actively exposes his imperfections. He actively exposes his imperfections because he knows that he cannot not do it. He knows he can't hold it in because he is just very flamboyant and loud about who he is. So he exposes his imperfections, but he hates himself for it. He hates himself for it. Like he just loathes that part of himself. And that's his like internal struggle. Versus Itsuki, like he just refuses to let them show. I guess. He's like that's why he's so mysterious, because even though in their relationship they're learning to like um, accept each other and like share their secret XXX, share their secrets XXX. Itsuki still at times it feels like he still seems too perfect, but not in the same way that Shizuma is perfect, but like in that like he's working really hard to keep up appearances. And so I just can't wrap my head around him. I feel kind of bad for him sometimes. Like I don't know. I'm a little torn about how I feel about him. Um, it's also because like in I think also because yes, this story was about him, and we get to see like more sides of him and stuff, and like how he's not just like super softy gentle. He has his own like horny streak, I guess. But in Therapy Game, Itsuki is kind of like the one who often serves as the catalyst for Minato and Shizuma in certain ways. And And in Therapy Game, like the two of them seem like incredibly close. Itsuki and Minato, they seem like so close. Like Minato is so clingy, but in Secret XX, it starts off a little awkward, where like they're not that close, and it's maybe because they had a little like fight over Itsuki dating Shohei or something, or maybe Itsuki just didn't want Shohei to meet Minato, um, or like no, I don't know. It's like it starts off a little awkward, and it's like it gets a little better later. When they're on the phone, you can tell that they are really close, and they're more like sibling close, where they're like um Minato's like, ugh, I only came because you said you were like complaining about how you didn't want to do work anymore and you wanted my help, and now you're like, and I can't believe now you're like being like, why are you here? Like he's like throwing a little fit where like they're like arguing but not really. But in Therapy Game, like I don't know they really do that. Like they're just Minato's like more like just super clingy, where he's like I want to spend time with my brother or something. It's like a bit of a character shift, which I thought was kind of interesting. But it also makes sense. Again, like these two books, Secret XXX and Therapy Game, were published like at later halves of the year, so there were like several months in between. So it's only natural that like the mangaka was like, okay, I'm gonna revamp and like flesh out these characters a little bit more and kind of alter their dynamic a little bit. But it's still really interesting. Like it's so reading this, I'm kind of like now I need to go back and like seek out certain scenes in Therapy Game and kind of like puzzle piece together like how does Secret XXX fit in with the lore that I know from Therapy Game. Very fascinating. I'll have to do that on my own time. So yeah, I guess I already talked about Minato's character in this book, where I actually think he's not as bad as I thought he was gonna be. I thought he was gonna be like the villain, which I wouldn't be mad about. I mean, I would love to see his villainous streak. Okay, I'm a glazer till the I'm a glazer forever. He can do no wrong to me, and so that's why I was like, he's probably gonna do something like crazy. No, he doesn't do anything that crazy. He's honestly really chill. Like I think okay, you know what? This is one thought I did have. I think because Secret XXX is from Shohei's perspective. So truthfully, Minato doesn't seem that bad. Like his behaviors aren't that bad. He actually does help Shohei. Does a pretty huge favor, quite a few favors, maybe two, maybe two, three favors for him. And so he's not that bad. But I think maybe in Therapy Game, because Therapy Game is from Minato's perspective, maybe in Minato's own head, he thinks that he is like trash. Like because he does think he is trash, he's probably conflated what actually happened into being a more serious offense, and he like genuinely is like, my brother was so upset at me, and like it's because I'm garbage. I'm just like my mom. I'm like possessive as fuck, and like I can't help it, and I'm god awful. And that's maybe why I feel like his character is a little different in both stories. Probably it is the perspective, and that kind of changes things too. And like it makes me want to reread Therapy Game, to like get a better grasp on like how much do I think is this like Minato projecting, and how much do I want to like believe that was real? Because I don't think he did anything bad. But in the beginning of Therapy Game, he really seems like down in the dumps. He didn't seem down in the dumps in Secret XXX though. So I was like, huh, interesting, interesting. Okay, then now Shizuma's character in Secret XXX is so funny. Is so funny. Um, he looks okay. First of all, he looks so different. I think because both Minato and Shizuma look really different because their hair is a lot flatter, and it's probably because they were side characters, so like not a lot was invested in their designs. But he especially Shizuma especially looks just so different, from how he does in Therapy Game. He looks so much better in Therapy Game. I'm so glad he got like a glow up. But in Secret XXX, we actually do see him, Shizuma, like come home, bummed out because he had caught Yuka cheating, and he's going on about how like love is not worth it, like love is fake, and like don't fall in love, my brother, my dear brother, my baby bro, don't fall in love, otherwise you're gonna be like me, wasted away, like something really dramatic like that. And he looks so skinny. He looks so skinny and sorry, he looks so skinny and like small. And it's like really funny, and I'm kind of surprised because I kind of thought like he catches Yuka cheating like the same day that he goes to the bar and like cries to Minato. But in Secret XXX, it feels like it was like a couple days in between. Like, okay, I don't know. The timing is weird. Like they kind of jumped the gun where when Shizuma comes home and he's like crying about Yuka, he's like he's like my friends try to cheer me up and they brought me to a drag club and they gave me a present. Like he's like drunk out of his mind. And then so like it's already implied that he like went to that club. But then later on, he's at the same club again, like a couple days later with friends, or maybe it was by himself. Like it's kind of weird. Like I don't know if like those two events were supposed to be the same, or if he was just that sad for multiple days and he kept going back to that club. So like many days afterwards, Minato finds him there after dragging Shohei there and stuff. Like I don't know. the the timing is a little bit messed up, but he looks so silly. Like his hair is so like his hair is so flat, and his hair is so flat and polished, and he looks so small. I think it's it's so silly. And then yeah, we do see him comfort Minato in Secret XXX, which is kind of, I was surprised about that too. I didn't think that that would actually be in here as well. And then I think we do kind of see him when Shohei is gonna move in with Itsuki, but I think that was maybe retconned a bit in Therapy Game Restart because the timing is a little different. Like at that point, when Shohei moves in with Itsuki, um, Shizuma's already dating. Shizuma is already dating Minato, and they were already talking about moving in together for a really long time. Like it seemed like they were already talking about moving in together for like multiple weeks at the least, because they were trying to go on like apartment tours and their plans kept getting messed up. So that's why I felt like the timing was a little bit weird. But like that was probably just like a fix of a rewriting of the story of the timeline. So I forgive it. I forgive it. I'm dissecting too hard, and like also it's not fair that I'm like reading the first book at the very end. Like She didn't think about all of this. Okay, I'm being too picky. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Secret XXX. My long-winded thoughts. My only critique is they move really fast. But you know, again, like I think that's just this mangaka's style is that they move really fast. Um, and I also think my other critique is that I feel like their secrets that they try to hold from each other are not that deep. It's kind of it kind of gives okay it kind of gives like what's that anime fuck what's that anime with the girl and the guy. Oh my god, I don't remember the name, but it's giving. There's a shoujo manga that I actually read in the past. Like I actually read it um before the anime came out. I read it. And like this girl is like, I don't want people to know, or she finds out her guy classmate has like a bunch of piercing and tattoos, and she's like, oh my god, it's like we both have secrets because I don't want people. She's like, we both have secrets because you don't want everyone to know that you have piercings and tattoos, which is like against the dress code, and I don't want people to know that I babysit my younger sister. And I'm like, these two things are not the same. These two things are not like equivalent at all. I feel like, and that's how I feel about Secret XXX. It's just like allergies are not that deep. I don't know why. It's like, or I don't think it was presented enough as a big deal for me to buy it. Um, but like, I guess Itsuki's secret is okay. I would have liked it if it was a bit more. Or no, his secret is fine. Actually, his secret of like he started out working at that bar and he used to also cross dress for the bar. Like I think that's an okay secret. I don't think that's bad. But like the allergy secret, I was like, I really wish it was more developed or more like nuanced around why he was so scared of revealing that secret specifically. Um, I feel like he should have been more scared of like I don't know, confessing his feelings or something. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Allergies just don't seem that deep. But hey, I'm just glad this story exists so they could give birth to my faves, my two faves down here. So who am I to complain, right? Okay. That's done with Secret XXX. I can't believe I was able to talk about it for 43, 44 minutes. But now we're getting into the real stuff. I there's a lot of characters in Shimanami Tasogare, and there's 4 volumes. So I kind of wanted to go through like each volume because there's a lot to talk about, and the story means a lot to me. So that's kind of why I want to talk about it. Rereading it, like binge rereading it, like just now, like a couple hours ago, I was almost gonna cry. Not gonna lie. I think now that I'm old and I'm like, or I'm not old, but now that I'm older and like I feel like I've been very disillusioned by the world, the story has a very different take. Like there's a lot of things I was able to glean that a younger me, because I've reread the story a lot. Well, I'll get to that. There's a lot of things a younger me wouldn't didn't think about or didn't notice. But since there's a lot of characters, I'm gonna like try my best to block them out and doodle them. I don't know if I'll be sketching when I'm talking about this story, just because I'm gonna be using too much brain power. There's a lot I want to say, just to keep it coherent. But well, we can just like stare at the diagram that I draw while I'm yapping away or something. So to start, Shimanami Tasogare is not a BL. It's not a yaoi, actually. Um, there is nothing explicit in it, and our protagonist never even gets together, like, officially with his love interest. He never, they don't date. But that's because that's not the point of the story. I actually think, like, the way they resolve, like, his feelings and everything, and their relationship, their dynamic, is very beautiful. It, like, makes me want to cry. How well it's fleshed out. So it's not a BL. Even though there's like it's not a romance. Even though the main character has romantic feelings, and there are characters with romantic feelings, and that's like all explored and stuff. But at its core, its goal is not to tell a love story, even though it does still tell a love story. Its goal is to share different perspectives and different lives, vignettes into these characters who are different members, like various um, members of the LGBTQ plus community, and that's why the story is so beautiful and so important. And I have so much to say about it. I think um, I think for anyone who is like, I don't read BL, I don't read yaoi, and are like intimidated, this is one you should read. This is one you should read because it is literature. It's so thoughtful. It's so thought provoking. I, I, this was the first, one of the first mangas I've ever purchased, while I was in high school. Or I know I might have been in middle school actually. Now that I think about it, I think I purchased this one in middle school because I remember lending it to a friend in high school, and that was already after I'd owned it for a while. And I was like, or I lent it out quite a couple times, like throughout high school. So I must have purchased it in middle school. This story, and I think the first manga I ever purchased was Hidamari ga Kikoeru. I hear the sunspots, and then so this one was probably like the second. And I've reread it so many times, like first time in middle school, probably in high school. I read it a lot while I was in college, just because, if I'm feeling lost or something, I would just like want to reread it and see if I got anything new. And each time, like, I would relive the feelings, and I did feel like I was getting something new. But reading it today, I kind of realized how many, maybe because I was reading it to analyze it rather than just to see things about myself. I was like trying to analyze the characters in my mind. I was like, wow, there were some things that I missed. Like, I knew the story spoke to me, and there were definitely like specific things I can point out that like really spoke to me. But I noticed one thing, like this one overarching theme, and I was like, wait, that is kind of what I believe. And this story captured that. And maybe that's why it's been so precious to me this whole time. And I think the way it like explores LGBTQ communities is so different from how some things are discussed in America. There are some discussions in America, are some like, yeah, there are some things in regards to the LGBTQ community in America that when I think about it, for me, I feel put in a tight spot, or I feel stuck, or like, yeah, I feel like I'm being put on the spot. There are certain things, and I'll get into it. But then I think this story is, you have all these characters who are being put on the spot too, in the same way, and we how they navigate that and like find an answer to that. And I was like, wow, I I didn't realize that, like, the way I was, like, I didn't realize that. um I think maybe in the past, a lot of, I think maybe we have shifted in a direction that requires a lot of labels. I mean, in the past, the story has always been about like, the story focuses a lot on like saying that labels, you can use labels, but it's also okay not to use labels. And it might be better sometimes to embrace not putting a label on things, or not being put on the spot and have to define yourself by something. That's a core theme to this story. And I feel like while in the past maybe we weren't as obsessed with labeling ourselves, I feel like currently we are very, a lot of people really love to label themselves, and I think that's fine for them. Like, it's nice to have that and accept that and have that work for you. But then there's people like me who really cannot I can't bring myself to put labels on anything, really. And that's what this story was all about, actually. And I was like, wow, me in the past didn't realize like that was something that I actually cared about that much. Like I thought there was something else that I cared about and it was adjacent, but I didn't realize like that core theme itself was so strong and like so meaningful. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You guys don't even know what I'm talking about. So let me get started. But this story came out in 2015, which makes sense. I think. Wait. Yeah. The story came out in 2015 and then I think it came out in a magazine, but then later got picked up and put on an app. So it was being released from 2015 to 2018. And then afterwards, it got like put into 4 volumes and published. And then Seven Seas also picked it up at some point. And so I have the Seven Seas copies, the 4 of them from ages ago. Okay, I might have lied about having this in middle school. Maybe it was like early high school, and I like don't remember because that time feels like it was middle school as well. I don't know, but yeah, I've had my copies for many years. Let's just say. So our story begins. Our story begins with our protagonist, and let me take a moment to draw him in silence. He's on the cover of the first book, the first volume, which is blue. I feel like I really love this mangaka and how they have very specific, like distinct features for their characters. Um, I think they do a pretty good job of trying to make their characters distinct, but there are times when they don't do as good of a job. There's one volume where I was like, oh, this character kind of changed the way they look, and I liked how they looked before. But other than that, like, I think each character kind of has a really distinct eye shape to me, and I'll try to capture that. Hmm. Our protagonist, he has like really big eyes. Like he has really big wide eyes, and like there are moments like he gets like shaken and his eyes get really big. And they always have like really nice eyelashes. And something about this mangaka style too is like I wish I could show. Wish I could show it. I'll try to describe it in words, but their the way they draw things is very surreal, or like yeah, surreal, and like some things that happen are like fantastical in that like it's like the character imagined it but it didn't actually happen and they wake up from this stupor, this like imagine this like surreal imagination they had, but it feels real. And the imagination's like it's always drawn with like really beautiful detail and like imagery of like glass shards or like snow coming out from like his eyes like in a house, um and like sparks and all that stuff, um and it's like always so beautiful, which is why I really love this story. Like I'm like drawing him too well. I'll just draw him like that. Dude, I cannot keep this up for every single person. But the style in this story is gonna be a little bit harder for me to draw because all of these people are like kind of they're less anime. They're a bit more real in that like they all have like black hair. Or no, they don't all have black hair, but like they don't have like overly sharp hair. It's all like pretty natural hair. I hope that makes sense. Oh my god, you look so cute. Okay. 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 Maybe I popped off a little too hard. Okay. Okay. Whoa. Okay, what's this dude's name? name. I forgot, even though I just read this. It's because there's too many characters. Okay. He has a last name too, but I'm just gonna call him Tatsuki? Tatsuki. Oh, Tasuku. Alright, so this is our protagonist. Tasuku. And, one day, it's like the second to last day before summer break at school, in high school. He's a high schooler. And in class, like, he gets outed for being gay. Or, they catch something on his friends, like, snatch his phone and, like, find something, and they start basically making fun of him. If he, like, it's not that they're, like, it's not that they think that he's gay, and so they're, like, ostracizing him and, like, hating on him for that, but it's more like they start making a lot of jokes. Like, they start joking about him being gay. And the whole class is, like, kind of, like, his friend jokes about him being gay. Like, oh my god, you gay? And, like, the whole class hears it. And he has to kind of, like, play it off and be like, no, no. What? No. I wouldn't look at that garbage. Stuff like that. Like, he has to play it off. And having to play it off hurts him so much that he goes to this walkway, and it's like high up. It's like a walkway that goes up to this like little tower. It's an attraction in Shimanami. You can take like a little like chair lift up there, I think, but you can also walk up there. So he's like on the path up to this like observe, like kind of like a viewpoint, like an observatory point. And he's like thinking about jumping off the rail. He's thinking about yes, yes. So he's thinking about jumping off the rail because he's so like crushed by being outed and having to deny it and like being made fun of. But while he's contemplating this, he sees someone jump out of a window in a different building. And he's so shocked that he rushes to that building, that little hut, the little house. When he rushes there, he sees that person. And I'm going to draw them here. And this person is perfectly fine. Turns out, they didn't actually jump at all. Because that's like one of the things in this story where it's like they see something and it's like kind of magical and then they snap out of it. With this one character in particular. And it's like, oh, it didn't actually happen. And their name is someone-san. In Japanese, it's like dare-san, like dare, like who, someone. And so in the translation, they call them someone-san. I remember in like a fan translation, they would call them anonymous, but I think someone-san makes a lot more sense because it's like dare doesn't sound like anonymous. Dare sounds like who? So it's more like ambiguous. Actually, her. See, I think the eyes are a bit more like that. Oh my god, taking this too seriously. And then so someone like is just in this um small home and just kind of notices him there and is like, "You didn't jump after all, and just like walks away. And he's like, what just happened?" And then he finds out that this building that he's like, this home that he's kind of stumbled into, is a drop-in center. And it's a drop-in center with a group of very interesting, very lovely people. And so when someone son walks out, Tasuku like goes after her. Goes after her asking, "Should I have died?" Trying to get some sort of answer. And she says, "You can tell me anything. I won't listen though." And that's kind of her catchphrase. And so he starts saying, they're like at the observatory top, the top of the hill. And he kind of explains the whole situation, what that happened at school. And he's too scared to go back to school the next day. He has one more day before summer break. And she doesn't give him an answer. She usually doesn't. She just says, "People who want to die wind up at my door. I guess Daichi-san was right about that. The drop-in center's about to close for the day, but you should come by tomorrow. And maybe somebody there will listen to you." And so the next day he goes back. Well, hang on. Before that, she says that. Gives him her like popsicle stick so that he can get a new popsicle or something. I don't know. And then she leaps off of the edge of this like observatory hill and starts skipping on sparkles across the sky. Like skipping in the sky on these little sparkles over the view. And it's like really magical looking. And she does that a lot. Like someone's on, they'll just like float away. I guess. Floating away in sparkles. And so the next day, our protagonist goes back to school. And at school, the people have not forgotten. So he kind of gets greeted, with his friend saying, "Hey, homo, good morning." And it kind of devolves into this whole thing of people being like kind of making fun of him. Like it's not like normal making fun of, I guess. Or it's not like they're just like shaming him for being gay, but it's more like the fact that they're joking about him potentially being gay in a very derogatory way. And it's like the whole class starts joking about it. Even his teacher, like they even start asking his teacher, the teacher too, like the homeroom teacher, and it's so painful that he just has to scream for them to stop and then run away. And then he runs all the way back to the drop-in center. And he goes to talk to someone's son again. But once again, she doesn't give him an answer. So he asks, like, he kind of just confesses, like, I'm probably gay and I don't know what I should do. Like, it's just a rumor now, but over summer break, who knows how many people are gonna know. I won't be able to go to tennis practice, table tennis practice, and he kind of cries out, "Why? Why am I the one who has to? Why should I have to always watch my back? Why am I the one who's getting torn up inside? Damn it! I almost died. How come they don't die?" And she just kind of leaves, giving him no answer. But he just spends his time, like, afterwards laying on a couch, taking a nap, kind of like crying to himself. Um, but it's drawn like as he cries, he's like breathing out these flakes of snow, these snowflakes, and it's sort of like he's let it all out and he's finally able to breathe again. And then, so after that whole situation, his friend like comes over and like tries to make it up to him, and they go to table tennis practice, and it seems like things are like pretty much resolved, or like he's kind of forced to like treat it as though nothing happened. But he does tell his friend off, being like, hey, you need to like stop saying stuff like that. It's not cool. And his friend is receptive to that. And then he continues to show up to the drop-in center and finds out that, like, oh, they actually also renovate houses, which is like a common thing in Japan. There's a lot of abandoned houses. So um, there's a lot of abandoned houses in like the more rural areas. And so there's a lot of initiatives to rebuild them. And so here I can add two new characters and focus on doing them justice. So the one who kind of leads the construction of these homes is Daichi-san. Oh my god, she's so cute. I think I made her too cute, actually. I love the way her hair specifically is drawn because it's always so like bubbly shaped. And I'm like, damn, I gotta learn. I think that's like one of the traits of this mangaka, that they're so good at drawing these like bubbly hair shapes. Because in their other manga, Hira, the character also has such like beautiful bubbly hair that I'm obsessed with. Oh man, that is one manga that like I am waiting for the day that it gets released in a book publication form. That story, it's spelled like this. He, e. That story, I love this one, and I think this one is always going to be special to me. But this story is like, it is a story I wish I wrote. Like it is the quintessential like story that like, man, I wish I wrote that. Like it has so many themes and like and concepts that like I always love and obsess over, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I didn't write this story. I'm like kind of upset that I didn't write this story, but that's out of love. It's because I love it so much. I think it's so beautiful. I don't think it's complete, but I haven't checked in on it in a while. But hey, if it ever gets published in English, I will be buying it ASAP. Daichi-san and Utsumi-kun. I feel like the design for Utsumi-kun like changes in the story, and I wish it didn't. I wish it didn't change so much, but I think it's also just like the mangaka style as a whole sort of adjusts over time as they're probably like getting better and more familiar with the characters. So these two, um, they kind of they were the ones who renovated the drop-in center building, and that property used to be someone's son's property, and someone's son just kind of gave them a wad of cash and was like, "Hey, do whatever you guys want." And so they're part of like Cat Clutter, which is the name of their restoration like group where they restore these houses. So Daichi-san and Utsumi-kun kind of take Tasuku. They take Tasuku and are like, "Hey, you can come help us while we're like restoring this house." And during that process, Tasuku finds out that Daichi-san is also gay. She's a lesbian and she has a beautiful, beautiful girlfriend. And that kind of like okay, wait. Let me draw her beautiful girlfriend first. Except I need to find a good photo of her so I can draw it well. Oh my god, they're so cute. What's her name? Wait, Saki. And I think this is kind of marks like the first pair of queer people that like Tasuku has like personally met. And so he kind of like looks at them and says that they're lucky that they get to live together and stuff. And it's kind of sweet. And so and like he looks at them and he says they're lucky and then like kind of walks away trying to brush it off. But he can't help but like imagine what if he could be like that with the person that he likes, his crush. And while he's like imagining it, all of these glass shards kind of like burst out of his chest, reflecting all of his like deepest desires. And he's so embarrassed at the thought of like people being able to see what's reflected on these glass shards that he's like he starts screaming like, "No one look at me!" But obviously it's not real. It's all surreal fantasy. But it kind of it kind of stings him, but it also changes his perspective. And so the guy that he likes, who I think has the most fascinating character, actually. Uh, what is his name? um, I think it might be called like Tadashi or something. But I don't remember. I'll find it later. But this is the guy he likes. I guess at this point we don't know his name yet in the story anyway. So when it pops up, I will I will add it. So the rest of this volume, um, kind of focuses on the two girlies. These two girlies, and they get into a little argument. Um, because Daichi-san told Tasuku that they were dating, and Saki's like, "How could you just tell him that?" But it all works out. They get ice cream, and we also learn about like how this drop-in center came to be, and how it was just like someone was like, "Here's the money, and do whatever you want." So they decided to make this drop-in center, and before it was decided that it would be a drop-in center, Daichi-san, it's like her first time coming to this area and taking on this gig because Utsumi-kun had told her about it. So she's really full of anxiety, having like left her previous job due to a lot of like societal pressures about like bosses asking her if she's gonna get married and stuff. So she's full of anxiety and is says like, I have to think everything really carefully so that I don't mess up. Like everything has a process. But someone-san is like, someone-san takes like a crowbar and starts hacking at a wall and says, "Process. You're gonna have to knock down this wall at some point, right? If you can't make it work like this, well, at least it'll let the air in. Deal with the other stuff later." And so this wall kind of becomes a metaphor for, breaking down those like that anxiety about and accepting who you are. Um, and so Daichi is like, if someone's going to destroy it anyway, it's going to be me. So she goes and destroys this wall. And then after destroying it, they're like, let's make this a drop-in center. And that's how the drop-in center is created, where a place where they can all come together and not feel rejected. And so that's kind of what Volume 1 is all about, is Tasuku, having heard this story, slowly comes to terms with himself and is kind of, oh, his name is Tsubaki. Kind of comes to terms with himself, and at the very end, he's able to accept that he is gay. Like, he's not gonna make excuses anymore when someone accuses him of being gay. He's gonna own up to it. He's not gonna say any hateful things, about himself, just to, cover it up or play along with everyone. And Daichi tells him that he gets to decide what the house that they're currently working on will end up being, and he can take his time to decide. And so he's very inspired, and kind of goes, can I, like, he's like, is it okay if I break this wall? So that's like his turn to accept who he is. And so Daichi's like, you can use this, like kind of gives him this smaller tool first, being like, you can start by destroying it one nail and one plank at a time. So he starts pulling out these nails with the nail puller, and he peeks through the peephole that the nail had left, and there he sees someone-san, but then he also sees the guy that he really likes. And he kind of starts crying and admitting to the other members there that like he really likes, there's a guy he really likes a guy, he says. And that's kind of like volume 1. It's about him accepting his own feelings after being inspired by hearing everyone else's story. Volume 1 is pretty straightforward, I think. What I really liked about volume 1 is how he needs time to kind of process his own internalized homophobia, and none of them push him or get mad at him for the way he denies that he's gay. Like whenever they like suggest it, he's like adamantly like he kind of like has this face where like he like denies it, and none of them get upset at him for it. They know that he's working through it, and like things have happened to him because they've also had similar experiences. And I think it's really lovely how like there's these metaphors and this imagery that allows us to know what he's truly feeling, even when he himself cannot say it. He cannot admit it out loud. It's in his own thoughts. Like aside from when he like tells someone's son that he might be gay, I don't know if he tends to admit it very much. It's not that he denies it in his own thoughts. Well, I don't think he denies it in his own thoughts. I think he knows, but he would never be willing to say it out loud. And like we learn about him liking someone, not even because he says it. He never tells us, even in his own thoughts, that he likes this guy. It's all done in imageries. It's all show, not tell. And it's only at the very end when he says it out loud to everyone, because that's him accepting who he is, that he tells. And I think that's such a masterful way of conveying that all through photos. Like a lot of things about our protagonist is not told to us. It's done through imagery and his the way he reacts. It's done in his reactions and his imagery and like motifs. He never has to tell us. Aside from the beginning when he's like gonna die and feeling like garbage. But yeah, really strong first book, but we're just getting started. I feel like the first book, you could probably tell I was explaining a lot of what was going on because it's like the setup of what this series is gonna be like. As we go into the other books, there'll probably be less explaining. I'll probably gloss over certain details or like play by play of what happens and just focus more on talking about the characters themselves and my take on what they're what I have come to interpret their feelings as, and like what is going on, because I never took a lot of time to try and interpret their feelings from my own perspective. I just kind of accepted their feelings for what they were, which is fine. I think it's a fine way of reading it. But then, it was kind of a good challenge to stop and think how I believe what I believe was going on. So now we're gonna add a new character. Then this character is what volume 2 is about. And I need to go and find how to draw them. So yeah, moving everyone aside for now, although they still show up, so don't want to move them away too much so you guys can still remember who they are. I need to draw 2 versions of this character so you can get a really good idea. So this character is a boy in middle school who hangs out in the drop-in center, and that's where he stores all of his dresses and his wigs. So he likes to cross-dress, but he still maintains that he is a boy, or at the very least he doesn't know. He doesn't, in this moment in the story, he doesn't consider himself trans. And that is something that Tasuku has a hard time grappling with, because he's like, well, there must be a reason why you really like to dress up this way. And this is kind of like Tasuku's first attempt and in trying to help someone. He feels like he wishes that like when he was younger, and like first figuring out that he was gay, there was a guiding hand that could help him through it. And so he's like, maybe I could help this kid in like understanding or like feeling accepted. And so but his way of doing it, because he's not really well versed in all of this, he's just come to accept himself, is to apply labels by attempting to be like, well, do you think you're trans, or like, do you think you're a girl or a boy, and like, kind of getting in on that. This boy whose name I'll find later, um, is like, I see myself. It's clear that this boy still sees himself as a boy, at least for now, um, but keeps saying that like, I dress up this way for myself because I like to. And then we also see that like, not only does he dress up for himself though, he actually really appreciates it and really likes it when um, people compliment him. Though he gets like a little embarrassed. He doesn't want to admit that he likes it. Um, and I never really gave this character much thought in the past because the situation happens and I felt like it was kind of like hurtful and immature of him. And so I was like, I guess he is just the way he is. But now that I'm older and I've kind of tried to I wanted to spend more time to think about this character. I think I have an explanation, my own explanation. I mean, obviously, like, I cannot give this character an actual answer, right? And, you know, they might prefer this character, if they were real, they would probably prefer there to be no answer. But I still wanted to think about it and, like, try and make a guess, I guess. So I'm drawing both versions because just to have, like, the side by side. He has, like, freckles. I will say that like this character at some points is a bit mean to Tasuku and like oversteps some boundaries. And so when I was younger, I was like, God, this who does this little boy think he is? But looking back, like I think it is just like, you know, because he's so young, he's still really immature. I think little kids do act that way, or like middle schoolers do act that way. I feel like it makes sense, so I forgive him. Yeah, what's his name? Damn. Mm, okay. So in this volume, Tasuku spends a lot of time with Misora and like, tries to figure him out. I guess. Um, Learns that grew up with two older sisters. His parents are divorced, so it's just his mom, his grandma, and his two sisters. And so there are some things that happen, like I think he gets a wet dream and he doesn't know how to deal with it, so he tries to ask Tasuku how like what he should do because he doesn't have like a father figure to um, teach him. Now he says like that's not why I dress up as a girl though, and I think that's totally true. Like I don't think um, that is the correlation, although I have another theory. But then later, the summer festival is happening and Misora like puts on a yukata and like it's really cute, really beautiful, with their wig and everything. And they don't, they weren't, they were like, I don't need to go out. I'm just happy wearing this in the drop-in center. But Tasuku kind of like motivates them into taking a step outside and like going to see the festival. And so Misora does, and it is very liberating for them. They have, it feels real. You can tell in the way it's drawn, like it feels good for them to be outside in this beautiful yukata and looking the way they love. And they have a great time, and like he even like passes by his sisters and like says like, oh my god, my sisters are back there, but they didn't even recognize me. And it's kind of like thrilling, I guess. Or it's not a bad thing. Like he doesn't see it as a bad thing. And so everything is really fun and nice. In fact, Misora was originally like, oh, I don't need to take any photos of me in this outfit. I'm already happy. But then while they're out there with the fireworks, Misora tells Tasuku like, you can take a photo. And so Tasuku does take a photo, and it's like a really lovely moment. It was a really lovely moment of like Misora getting a chance to um, feel what it's feel comfortable in their own skin, I guess, in the outside world. But then while they're walking through the festival, some creep like his hand touches Misora on the back, and like it's it's creepy and it's really gross. And like Misora freezes up and like clings to Tasuku and is like really creeped out. And Tasuku's like, oh my god, let's get out of here. And then Tasuku, unfortunately, offhandedly says a line here. He says, they went after you because you're so cute, Misora-san. And this triggers them so bad. Misora lets go of him and starts like pushing him and shouting at him, shouting slurs at him. A lot of slurs, actually. They shout a lot of slurs at Tasuku over this situation, and they get into a fight because Tasuku's like, "Why are you saying that so loud? Like, why are you calling me slurs so loudly? You know?" And they get into a scuffle, and while they're fighting, the guy that Tasuku likes, Tsubaki, rushes in because the goldfish that Misora had won were thrown onto the ground, and he's a goldfish lover. I forgot to mention that, but he loves goldfish, and so he's like he rushes in to save the goldfish, and it's like really awkward, and so the two of them just kind of like leave, and they don't speak for a really long time, and that's kind of how this volume ends, is with that. Tasuku tries to like ask Daichi-san, like what should I have done? Like I don't know where it went wrong. Like I just wanted to help. But what should I have done to help? And Daichi-san's like, I really don't know. Like I don't know how. And she's right, because like, you know, you don't know, you can't, I guess you you do not know. You do not know. And so Tasuku is kind of left like with this like broken friendship and feeling really lost because he essentially failed, you know, at befriending and understanding. And I think that's kind of where it leaves. Oh, let me just check. Yeah, that's where this volume leaves off. He's just feeling really lost because he doesn't know where he went wrong. Now, I think in the past when I read it, like I did think his comment was a little bit off, you know, like, but he also like doesn't know better. He's a high school boy. He doesn't know why that's like really offensive to say. Um so but then I kind of like I never really sat down to grapple with like, why did that insult Misora so badly, right? Because Tasuku doesn't necessarily say like, oh, it's because you're a cute girl. He says it's because you're so cute, you know, and there's no gender involved in that comment. But even though it is kind of misogynistic, so I was like, but you know, Misora, like we don't know how they feel, so I never really stopped to think about it. But then today I did, and I think I kind of figured it out. Or in my own head, I figured it out. So there's a scene where Misora is out at late at night, and Tasuku's like, "Dude, what are you doing doing out so late at night? It's dangerous." And he's like, and Misora says like, "Well, it's not that bad because I'm a boy after all. Like I'm a boy, so it's not as dangerous for me." And Tasuku kind of like is like, "Oh, I guess like so you still see yourself as a boy?" And Tasuku just kind of goes like, "Well, you're still young, so I should walk you home. You're still a kid." And they kind of like get into this little scuffle, and it's like cute because they were friends. And I think that meant him saying, "Oh, cause I'm a boy," and then knowing that he grew up in a family of girls. I think it shows how he is keenly aware of misogyny, and he's aware of the advantage that he has as a boy or as a man, potentially. And so I think the recognition of misogyny because Misora grew up with so many women is what makes him reluctant to admit whether he wants to transition or not. Like again, it's never clear in the story, even at the very end, um, what gender he sees himself as. He still refers to himself as he the whole time. Like he stops cross dressing until the very end. He does it again. He picks it up again, but like he never um states that he wants to be a girl. So that's why I keep using he because it's never explicitly like stated. But I think that recognizing misogyny in the world might be why he feels reluctant to admit it, or he might not actually want to transition and maybe just enjoys drag. Although he also does have some like internalized homophobia about drag as well. Or I don't think it's like homophobia, but like he does call himself a pervert. He's like, maybe I'm just a pervert. Like maybe I'm not trans or anything. I'm just a pervert, which is not true. Like that's not true either. Um, but like I think there's a lot of complicated feelings, and I think misogyny is the missing piece. What Tasuku missed was misogyny, and that's why his comment was so offensive because Misora is put in this position of recognizing like the oppression of women and how like he would how do I describe this? It's like you're putting them down because now you're seeing them as like Misora kind of became a victim of like objectification in that situation, which was something that he had always recognized and wanted to avoid. And that's why he would always say, I do this for myself, even though he does like when people compliment him. So it's kind of like a mix of those things of like being aware of misogyny and kind of recognizing his privilege as a guy, but still enjoying dressing up that he's having a hard time working through because he's so young. He doesn't know that like he can have both. Like you can still dress up and be a guy and it's okay. Like you don't have to feel bad. and things like that. So kind of fascinating, kind of interesting. I also think there's like um kind of a concept of like twink death as well, where which is weird to say because he's a kid, but like what I mean is he also does talk about like how in a year or so, like his voice is gonna change, his body's gonna change, and then he might no longer be able to continue dressing up and stuff. So there's like a mix of things there, and I think it all comes down to the fact like he's still really young, and the TLDR of this volume to me was like you don't always need a label right away. You don't always need a label. especially if that label is not serving you or convenient to you, you don't need a label. And that's kind of what Tasuku has to learn. And he learns that in volume, I think he learns that in volume 3. Well, he learns less about labels, but more about like, you can't help everyone. Like, helping people sometimes feels more self serving, especially when it's labeling. And so that's kind of what volume 2 focuses on. And I thought it was really, I never thought about it hard. I never thought about it hard enough in the past, but now that I have, I think it's like a really nuanced take and like very rare to see. I don't know if any other story has explored this like non-answer. But I like it. I like it. In the past, I was too like focused on like how uncomfortable it made me, so I didn't really like it as much. Uncomfortable in that like Misora was kind of mean, or Misora was asking uncomfortable questions and being kind of mean to Tasuku at the beginning, and then proceeded to call him a bunch of slurs. So I was uncomfortable by that part, but giving grace because he is still a middle schooler. It is interesting to dissect, and now I'm like I have a new perspective on it. Okay, that's volume 2. Volume 3 used to be my favorite volume. But during my reread this time, I think volume 4 became my favorite volume. But in the past, volume 3 was my favorite volume. I still actually, no, actually, well, I still really like volume 3. Volume 4 was really nice and beautiful though. But wait, like, is volume 4 the one where he like freaks out? No, okay, yeah. Okay, I think volume 4 speaks to me a lot personally, but volume 3 has a lot of very fascinating discussion. And that's why I really, really liked volume 3. So volume 3 focuses on Tasuku and Tsubaki and their friendship. Kind of. Well, but not only is it about them two, it's also about Utsumi-kun. And Utsumi-kun might be, like, my, well, yeah, I think he's my favorite character. I do really like Summon-san, and I do like the protagonist, but I think Utsumi-kun is my favorite. After this reread, I can say confidently, I think he's my favorite. And so, oh man. In volume 3, the cat clutter group throws a little like workshop. And during that workshop, oh man, I completely forgot to mention that like Tsubaki's dad. I don't even want to draw him though, because he's just an old man. Here. Tsubaki's dad is like, um, he's part of the government, like the social worker who kind of works with cat clutter to get these renovations done, but he's not really understanding about like LGBT issues. He's a little bit like, yeah, he's a little bit offensive, but not like intentionally. I think nobody in this story is like intentionally offensive the way some people may be in America. Um, he's just like, he just says some things that are like, um, what's the word? Microaggressions, or like he doesn't really understand, and so he'll keep saying like, "Oh yeah, that house is full of people like that," you know, that kind of thing. And so this guy is his dad. So, Tsubaki's dad brings Tsubaki to the workshop, and that's how the two of them are like, "Oh wait, um, you're also a part of this." Even though they like know each other from school, but like this was more just like a the proper run in. I guess you could say. And then Utsumi-kun is leading the Utsumi is leading the workshop, and it's going pretty well until this lady. Oh no. I'm gonna just draw her very like simply because I don't care. She like wears this like hat. And her hair is like kind of curly. She has a daughter too. Wait. Oh my god, she looks so sad. Well, she does look pretty sad throughout a lot of this this volume. She has a ponytail, but I really can't tell. Oh yeah, she does, and her hair is like braided. Oh wait, she has a really high ponytail. So this lady, Oyama-san, was Utsumi-kun's high school volleyball teammate, and she was at this workshop and kind of outs Utsumi-kun in front of everybody, but like in a way where she's trying to be nice about it, like friendly, where she's like, "Oh my god, it's been so long, and I remember when we were on the volleyball team," and like dead naming him the whole time. Um, she's like trying to be, she's like really nice, but she's like really cheerful and nice and being like, "Wow, I can't believe you never told me." Like, um, I wish we could have understood each other better, whatever, whatever. She's a lot. She's a lot. Um, I don't really know how to describe her, but she's a lot. Um, and Utsumi-kun, the king that he is, does an amazing job of like giving her a lot of grace. He's like so kind and like just letting it go. Daichi-san, however, hates it and like is genuinely pissed the fuck off about Oyama-san's behavior, but she knows that like she can't do anything if Utsumi-kun doesn't want anything to be done, right? It's not really her place, but she's keeping an eye out. And so that happened, and while that happened, Our two boys here are like working on a project for their like club together, and Tsubaki keeps saying like borderline homophobic stuff, being like, "Man, it's a bunch of those kinds of people." Basically, the same things that his dad says. Um, but he's very fascinating because he does things. He does things in a way where like he kind of knows that Tasuku likes him, and so you'll purposely like bait him or like be a little be a little mean to him. He's very interesting, but I like that he's like that. Like I like that he's like kind of mean, and he's not great. Like he has a lot of internalized homophobia. Like, he has a lot of homophobia at the beginning. Let's just say that, and like he says mean things, but he's like kind of like purposely playing with Tasuku's heart, where like he'll get close to him on purpose, or like invite him out on purpose, and like just see how he reacts. I think it's like kind of it's good that like this character initially is very flawed, and that's why his growth and his like development is so much more rewarding, and that's why this volume was my favorite, because I like to see him specifically change as he gets to know the people in Cat Clutter a lot better, and he gets to know Tasuku a lot better as well. So the two boys like they go to see this like boat or something. I don't know. A lot happens. They go see this boat. There's these girls there, but Tasuku's like over the moon still that he gets to hang out with Tsubaki. And like this is where all those like things play out where like, you know, it feels like Tsubaki knows that Tasuku likes him and is like secretly mocking him whenever they get close or like in the crowds, like when Tasuku like accidentally has to like lean on Tsubaki, like he will have this smirk, and it's like very interesting how all of that is played out with like no words. It's all visuals, um, but you can see it in the way his eyes look. That like he's kind of making fun of him, and they have noodles, and like Tsubaki says some like really mean things about cat clutter, and the theme of this volume was Tasuku was thinking, seeing as how like things in the previous volume went, and also like seeing how things are in general, he feels like silence is golden. That was kind of his phrase. He felt like he was satisfied just being Tsubaki's friend. He felt like the way things were now was enough, and silence is golden. But Tsubaki keeps saying like kind of mean things, and so he's saying some mean things about cat clutter while they're eating ramen, and Tasuku can't bring himself to say anything because he's I mean the whole time he's only just gotten to the point where he's not going to join in on making fun of it and like being in denial. So he hasn't gone far enough where he can defend or like proudly, protect. So he's he's unable to say anything, but one of the girls in their group just is able to and just says, "Why do you got to talk about people like that?" and kind of like shuts it down immediately. And after that situation, I mean, they apologize. He apologizes, and the other girl apologizes too. And after that situation, Tasuku realizes like what would what would what would I have done if she hadn't been there? I think I would have been crushed again. Is silence really golden? And so the thinking that he had at the beginning of the volume, it's sort of changing, and he's realizing he needs to become tougher. And then that kind of mirrors the situation with Utsumi-kun and Oyama-san, because Tsumi-kun is trying really hard not to say anything, not to shatter Oyama-san's like attempts at kindness. But again, is silence really golden? Should he have to endure her like microaggressions, um, and just like let it go so that she can feel like she can be included in this group? So Oyama-san tries to start joining cat clutter because she's like, "Oh my god, this is so cool! I want to help you guys. I want to help you guys advocate for um, I want to help advocate for you guys who are LGBTQ, or she says this thing where it's like, oh, being trans, it's just a disorder in your head. So you guys aren't like gay people. So I want to help advocate and like people need to know your story, like saying stuff like that, which is very like out of bounds. Like if that's not her job. Okay, it's like I think it's more like that's not it's not that's not Utsumi's job if he doesn't want to. And it's not her job to push minorities to tell their story if they don't want to. You know? It's like, yes, you should be an ally, but you shouldn't be putting these pressures on people. And so this kind of continues for a while. Um, we have a scene where Utsumi-kun is like biking because he's a cyclist, or I think he is a cyclist. I think he maybe not professionally, but he has some really fancy gear on, so I think he does it like seriously. And Tasuku Tasuku wants to tag along, and he kind of tries to ask about the situation, like how Utsumi-kun's feeling about the situation. And he sort of, let's see, he sort of says, like, so yeah, Tasuku's like trying to ask about it, and Utsumi-kun's like, ah, well, she is a bit much sometimes, isn't she? She holds no what? She's no holds barred or like resentlessly positive. I don't need her to see the real me or welcome me with open arms. That's just not my style. And Tasuku, it doesn't bother you? And Tsumikin says, Oyama-san's nice. She's not a bad person. And me, I'm not a good person either. And he kind of speeds off on his bike and like shouts on the Shimanami uh like cycling bridge. He goes like, ah, fuck, just like on this famous cycling bridge. And I think that's like when we finally get to see his true feelings, because he's sort of been holding it in the whole time up to this point. And it's like Tasuku kind of comes to this realization like, oh, this kind of mirrors what I did to Misora, where Misora didn't really need my help or necessarily want my help or want to be defined in a way, but I thought that I could, and I had this sense of superiority as this like elder figure that I could help him. And it's similar here where Utsumi-kun doesn't need any help. Utsumi-kun doesn't necessarily need to even have his story told, but Oyama-san really wants to, for her own sense of like superiority, or like feeling like she's a part of something. And it's like a really nice revelation. And I kind of like this whole section just like really gave me a lot of thoughts about like, I mean, reading it again, it gave me a lot of thoughts about how like as a society sometimes I feel like we've been overcorrecting, and it does end up feeling this way in certain situations, especially in America. I mean, at least though in America, I think there are a lot of um, people in the LGBTQ community who love talking about their story. Like they love talking about their story. They love advocating. So it's not as big of an issue. But I think that like culture of a lot of people loving to advocate, it kind of has created this sense of like why aren't you advocating, or like everything should be, you know, ad a an active advocation for what you believe in. Like I think even like reading yaoi or reading yuri has kind of become like that too. For some people, they think it's like they're doing a social like an act of social justice or like social service when, you know, a lot of times it's not deep to that point, I guess, where you should be shaming other people. I mean, there's no shaming in this book, but like, you know, I feel like there's some people who like shame other people for not consuming certain types of queer literature because they're like, well, clearly you don't care enough because you're not advocating for everything, every single thing. But that's like another. Maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself. I should continue forth explaining like what happens next, just so that we get like the whole picture, and then I can kind of dissect how I feel about it. Um, so Oyama-san pushes Utsumi-kun to like go to a dinner where Oyama-san has like gotten all of the other people from their volleyball team to a dinner that she calls like a girls' night out, and Utsumi-kun is pressured into going, so he does go. Um, and but that dinner, during that dinner, um, you know, the other people there are really respectfully curious because they don't know what it's like to be trans. So they have some questions. Like they're just kind of like, "Oh, which restroom do you use?" And he's just like, "I mean, I go to the men's restroom." And they're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." But you know, they're just naturally curious because they don't have a place to start. Um, but Oyama-san is like, "You guys shouldn't ask that. Like, it's so rude and stuff." Even though Utsumi like doesn't mind, and it's kind of like this like overcorrection, and like she says a lot of things and about like reaching out and like helping. Like kids should. I always teach my daughter to reach out and talk to lonely kids in her class and all that. And it kind of reminds me kind of like a time when he had tried to reach out to this kid in his class, and the kid was like, "You're only asking me because you want to feel better about yourself." And Utsumi's like, "You keep doing this because you want to feel better about yourself." And it's like, you shouldn't be nice because you feel like you're getting bonus points. And so he leaves, and Oyama-san keeps chasing after him to like be like, won't you like do a talk at the school? Like I think the kids will really love it." And it's gonna be like, I don't want to." And he says like, he's like, "Yes, when I was born, people saw my body as female, and now I'm living as a man. When I was a kid, I didn't understand any of that. I was just anxious and scared, and that's just not how I define myself. I don't want or need everyone in the world to understand me." Um, and he's like, "I appreciate how you feel, but I wish you'd let me handle things about myself, well, by myself." And she goes, "But if you give up on telling people, then we'll never understand each other. I don't want people like you to be misunderstood." People like you. And she keeps going. This is when she says, like, "You're different from homosexual. It's better to have people really understand." And he's like, "It's not. I'm not so desperate to have people understand me that I'm okay with being hurt like this. Don't do this. Not to me. Not to all of us. Don't pity us and feel superior." And I feel like this entire arc, I can't help but feel like this has happened a lot more now, currently, in our current day and age, than it used to in the past. I think this is like a concept that maybe a lot of people in America or on the West don't really understand about, like, the LGBTQ plus community in the East, and why there tends to be a lot of like differing opinions or discourse between the two. It's because like some people just don't want to be loud. Some people just don't want to advocate because they don't think that them being part of the community defines who they are. They feel like they have other things that they want to focus on. And I kind of I like that. Like I feel like that's really refreshing. I like how they talk about it and how they're really blunt about it. Where it's like later on someone's on like Tasuku asks someone's on like, "Oh, like if you tell me that you're ace, then at least I can see you better because now there's this label." And then someone sounds like, "Well, but being ace isn't what makes me me. Just like how being gay isn't what makes you you." And Tasuku's like, "You're right." And I was like, that is so like I feel like that isn't discussed a lot anymore, or a lot of people don't feel that way. I think a lot of people think it kind of goes hand in hand, like their queerness is such a huge part of their identity, or they make it their entire personality, which is fine, but then we kind of forget that there are other people who maybe don't want to do that, and we shouldn't be thinking that they're less, they're lesser, or like making any judgments on that. But that is Utsumi's arc in this volume. But then now we talk about Tsubaki, and Tsubaki has a lot of internalized homophobia naturally. I mean, because he repeats a lot of similar things that his dad will say. Not his dad doesn't say it offensively. His dad says it like half-heartedly, but he will say it in a derogatory way. Um, but it's mostly because it's like an attack on him. He feels like he is rejecting it. So Tsubaki talks with someone-san and is being a little bit mean, being a little offensive. But obviously, someone-san doesn't care. And someone-san says, "What are you? What are you afraid of?" And this triggers Tsubaki so bad he like flips out. He flips out and starts demanding. Anyway, what are you? Like, like, what are you? You know, you're the leader of the group. What are you? And trying to like suss her out. And then she's like, "So what are you? A man, a woman, gay maybe?" And he gets so mad. He's like, "You listen to me." And she says, "I never listen," because that's her catchphrase. "Tell me anything. I won't listen though." And he screams, "Then keep your mouth shut." And he gets so pissed. He kind of like does a 180 on Tasuku because he's so like ticked off. And he ends up saying a lot of really mean things to Tasuku. He says like maybe like all of the meanest things he could say. Like, "That lady, someone's on or whatever, she's the boss, right? Is she right in the head? Nothing she says makes sense. Like maybe she's up to no good getting all her um friends in one spot. I almost got sucked in too. It just pisses me off. What's their deal anyway?" And like he's like he says like a lot of things like, "Just stay away from me. You guys should just keep quiet. But no, you get together and make a big scene. Of course nobody likes you. You all make me sick." And finally, in this volume, Tasuku is able to speak up for himself. He This is all like illustrated as though like Tsubaki is like floating away in a UFO, and Tasuku has to go and like rip the window off of the UFO and like barge in, and he says, "That's enough. Don't look down on me and everyone else." And he goes, "I think I'm gay, and yeah, I like you." And so he confesses then and there, and kind of talks about what this drop-in center has done for him and how it has helped him so much. And so he's like, "I want you to know that what you said hurt me. It's not like I want you to apologize or accept me. I want you not to hurt anyone else. I don't want to watch the person I like hurt other people anymore. And so this is like the first time he's able to say how he feels and actually speak up for himself instead of like hiding away or being like I'm just gonna go die. He's like, okay, now I can defend myself and make myself heard. And at that, Tsubaki starts crying and like apologizing, and he leaves saying, "I'm glad I got to talk to you." And so it's like a very mysterious kind of progression, but I kind of like how the story is trying to showcase how like he has a lot of internalized conflicting feelings, probably that his parents have implanted onto him. So he's not truly like a hateful person. He's just still processing like how he feels. Um, like the chapter kind of just ends like, I still don't really know what's up with Tsubaki-kun, but he's got his own baggage. I feel like I get that. That irritation, that anxiety, that feeling of not even knowing what you want to do. That and how he teared up. It reminded me of myself on that summer day not too long ago. That summer day being the day when he first barged into the second time he barged into the drop-in center and he cried on the couch. So it's like that letting go of the shame, I think. And so the two of them still continue to be friends and like meet up afterwards. Uh, I do, yeah. Tasuku does forgive him, and he Tsubaki grows and he becomes better, and like another thing happens. So I felt like it was such a nice way of showing this kind of person that not everyone is just like just ignorant or just hateful. Like there are a lot of people who are just misguided and maybe hating themselves. And so at the end of this volume, Tasuku is like, hey, I have an idea for you guys, for Daichi and Saki. He's like, why don't you guys get married in this house? Because they've been talking about wanting to get married, even though they're kind of afraid of like coming out to their parents. Daichi has a strained relationship with her parents after she came out, and then Saki hasn't yet. So they're a little worried about that, but they do want to get married. So um, that's why Tasuku's like, hey, maybe this house that we've been working on can be where you guys host your wedding. And that is what happens in volume 4. Volume 4 is a lot of like them working on the wedding, like working on planning it, getting the house that they're working on up to shape. But it's also about a guy that I hadn't drawn this whole time, because he's been here this whole time. I just haven't drawn him because I don't think I can do him justice. So I've been kind of avoiding it. But see if I can do it now. I guess pretty light color. Oh my god. I'm making him look bald. He does have hair, I swear. It's just like drawn really close to his head. Okay, I think that's good enough. He looks really cute. Mm, so I think he's Russian because his name is Ilya Chaiko san. So this is about him and um his relationship I gotta draw the other dude too. So his lover is currently hospitalized from late stage cancer. It's kind of sad, but they're really cute. They're like, this is like old man YAOI for real. They're so cute. Oh my god. Because they're such huge Tchaikovsky nerds. So they just keep talking about Tchaikovsky songs and records and stuff. Oh my god, wait. Why is it kind of cute? A lot cuter than I thought. Whoa, whoa. Mm. So his name is Seichiro. And I'm like, oh my god, it's that guy from what the world depends on the bean counter or something. Oh my god, wait, they're so cute. They're so cute. The old man Yaoi. Wait, I kinda drew them so cute. Wow. Wow. I really locked in on this spread. Like, I did a good job. They look right. They look right. I think I did a good job. Damn. Okay, so in this volume, it's the two of them and how he's in the Seichiro's in the hospital for late stage cancer, and Chaiko-san goes to visit him, and because they're so old, like, you know, the times were different, so um they they were studying abroad in university, and then they dated for a bit, and then they split up, and then Seichiro got married and had a son, but then shortly after they got divorced because Seichiro realized like he was gay, and then so eventually they got back together, and so they've been together for like 30 years now. And now that Seichiro's in the hospital because of cancer, he's been reconnecting with his son um, and all that, and it's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet, these two old men. Old man Yaoi. I think they look so cute. But no, wait, he has glasses in some of them, so. Oh my god, that's so cute. That's so cute. So while that is going on, let's see. Okay, so yeah, we learn about these two, and then we learn about how they actually, the two of them, knew someone's son before the drop-in center was even made. Like, they had known her beforehand, before she became someone's son, and they're like, we might have actually been the ones to name her someone's son, Dare-san, um, because, well, back then we didn't know her name, but we just saw her leap off of a building and got freaked out. Similar to how Tasuku saw her leap out of the window. The two of them, these two, also saw her leap out of the window and tried to grab her, only to blink and see that she was standing right next to them. And so they all chatted because they were at a they were at a coffee grinding class, like a coffee brewing class together, and so they kind of were chatting afterwards, and um, she asked if they're a couple, and they're kind of surprised. They're like, do we look like a couple? And she's like, not really. Just that's how it is when two people are together in this world we live in. So that's a first sign of her kind of mentioning these societal prejudices, or like the societal norms that exist. And then we learn that she wishes to remove herself from all of that. They describe it as she was actively seeking solitude. Um, but the way she describes it, and this description is what has stuck with me ever since the first time I read this series. This section was the one that like always comes to mind and plays in my head. So someone-san, Dare-san says, women, wait, hang on, wait. Say the world is a big boat. Women, men, wives, husbands, families, bosses, rivals. Everyone has the idea of belonging to something as a foundation. And to me, I kind of just think she's talking about labels. People with all kinds of values get on those boats together, but I can't board any of them, and I'm sure I'll never be able to. Yesterday, someone told me it was all well and good to be single now, but that I'd regret it 10 years later, so I'd best find a good person. So I submitted my resignation without a thought, and today I came to the coffee course. So she says that like she could be asexual, but at its core, she just cannot. She doesn't feel like she can bind herself to the same values that other people have, and she doesn't like when other people push those values onto her. Those values are labels. You know, her mentioning when two people are together, they're a couple, or like, you know, in 10 years she'd regret being single and she'd find someone. Like, these are all ideas that get pushed onto her, and she wants to reject them all because she knows that she cannot connect with them. She cannot get on those boats. The boat analogy is what, like, if I were to say what stuck with me in this entire story, is that boat analogy, because I feel that way too. I feel like if the world was a bunch of boats, I also personally could not get on any of those boats. Now, someone's son doesn't want to get on any of those boats, but me, I'm kind of like, damn, I wish I could get on those boats, but I know I can't because skill issue. Skill issue. I cannot get on a boat, but I really want to. I wish I could. And that's why I read so much yaoi, because I want to fantasize what it must be like on that boat. And so yaoi provides me with that fantasy. But in a way that I can believe, because I think like a lot of like heteronormative stories push too many. Again, it's like that pushing concepts and labels onto people. Like, I don't want stories that like push ideas onto people, but I still would like to explore concepts of belonging. You know, I would still like to imagine if I did belong in some way, um, and so that's why I think BL stories are so meaningful. Even though these characters do butt heads with a lot of like, um, what's the word? Like, they do get hated on, or there's a lot of societal like issues they butt heads with, um, and a lot of discussion on that. At least they have found someone that they can connect with and ride that boat together. You know, oh, adversity. Even if they face adversity, they found someone that they can be on a boat with, and that's what I'm so envious of. I want to be on a boat too, but I can't. But someone's son, Dare-san, does not want to be on a boat. She cannot quite explain it herself because she doesn't even know. Even though she says that she might be ace, she feels like she doesn't even want to explain that anyway. She doesn't even really know where she lands. She doesn't know if that's even the right word, I guess, because she doesn't want that emotional labor of connections. Um, and so Taiko-san and Seichiro-san kind of process it with her, and they're like, the impression I'm getting is that more than love and romance and whatnot, you're looking not to be labeled. Well, yeah, he basically said what I was thinking. That you're seeking solitude. Solitude. Ah, oh, I'm just thinking out loud. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she's like, well, he continues, they won't permit you to have that solitude of being no one. Perhaps that's hard for you. So again, it's like she doesn't want any concepts to be pushed onto her. She doesn't want to be perceived necessarily. She doesn't have to want to define who she is to other people. Um, And so to them they describe that as solitude. But I really resonate with that. I feel like I would rather um be nothing than have to say what I am. Maybe it's that you want to be no one, just someone from who knows where. And that's when she adopts the name Dare-san. She's like, I'm no one, intent on my solitude, something even I can't see. I'm just someone. And that's kind of how she became who she was. And I was like, that is so, like, back in the day when I read this section, I didn't even really like grapple with this part of the story. There's another part where she talks more about it that I really resonated with. I mean, I resonated with the boat thing, but I didn't really get like the whole like, why would you call yourself Dare-san? I was like, okay, well, she can do what she wants. But now I really do get it. I do get that like rejection of society and concepts and connections that certain connections that do not speak for you. I think I feel that way as well. Although I wouldn't call myself someone, but um, I still like my name, but I get it. I get it. And so that's the story of where she comes from. And interestingly, after hearing the story, Tasuku says, like, can a person live in solitude forever? Um, and like because he's someone who gets a lot of crushes and stuff, he can't really wrap his head around it. He's like, it's true that love is hard, but for me at least, it's easier than solitude, which I think is kind of it's it's cool that he acknowledges that like that's something that he could probably never understand. Like there are people different from him. Um, Later we find out that Tsubaki's dad has outed Saki to her parents. As we mentioned before, Saki still hasn't told her parents. Um, and she was waiting for the right time. She was a little scared to tell them. She was waiting for the right time. And Tsubaki's dad just kind of straight up told them unintentionally. And so the two of them have to go and like talk it out. But luckily it does work out and they're pretty understanding of it. But it's not like, it doesn't work out perfectly. It's not like, it didn't work out in like the way it works out in Secret XXX or like it's all like flowers and stuff. Her parents do, her dad at least says, you know, he he didn't like the thought of her being gay. But when he realized that he didn't like the thought of that, he hated that he had that thought. You know, like he hated that he was being discriminatory or that he hated that like he could ever dislike his daughter being a certain way. And so he reflected on it and he was like, I should have, like, if I truly love you and like want you to be happy, I should have given you my blessing. And if I was gonna be a bitch, if I was gonna be mean and a horrible father, I should have just like said I would never forgive you. Like I should have just picked one side or the other. I can't be here stuck in the middle, like wanting to be a loving father, but then also rejecting this side of you. Like those two things can't coexist. So I have to make up my mind and accept you for who you are. And so he accepts her, and um, her mom is like, "Well, good thing you did, because I would have given you a real talking to." And so that situation passes, but what happens next is Tsubaki's dad shows up at the drop-in center because he's like smiling still. He's like, "Oops, I made an oopsie and I accidentally outed Saki to her father. I wanted to come and apologize." And when all the people at the drop-in center hear that that had happened, which by the way, Tsubaki is there too. When they all hear that that had happened, they're so shocked. They're so shocked and like speechless. Um, and Tsubaki's like, what good would apologizing do? And he's so mad. He is so mad at his own father because he's gone through his own reflection and like grappling with his own like internal homophobia. So now that he's like come around, he's so upset with his own father for having like outed Saki to her parents, and he's all like, the timing is different for everyone. And then his dad is like, wait, why are you even here? Like where is this coming from? Why are you even here? And his dad starts going like, do you just come here to hang out? Like, or are you also like that? Like, who was, he says, like, who the hell was it who dragged you into homosexuality? And it's like a huge uproar. Which, like, again, like, now we kind of come around and we see why Tsubaki was like the way he was in the first place. It's because of the way his dad is. And so seeing this, Tasuku's like, I need to do something, and he kind of just steps up and says, I'm gay. What are you gonna do about it? Do you see me as lesser now? Like, think about that. Like, I'm literally standing right in front of you, like, tell me to my face. What are you gonna do about me? And that kind of scares his dad away. Or, not scares, but his dad kind of realizes that he embarrassed himself and decides to leave. And after that, Tsubaki also has a moment where he tells Tasuke that he's really cool for speaking up and like defending him, and he wants to better himself too, so he can also be like that, and throw away the part of him that was like, you know, kind of hateful. And then he also says this part, which I think is like actually kind of nice. I really like the way that this is played out, because this is not a romance. It's like a character analysis. So Tsubaki like gives Tasuku a hug and is like, I know you like me. Like, I know you have a crush on me, and I don't think it's gross. Like, it didn't gross me out. But I can't be with you right now because I'm so flawed. Like, there's still a lot about me that I like really hate. Like, I hate parts of myself, and I also can't figure out like whether I do like guys or not. Like, I'm still working that part out. Um, but I'm working on it, and I'll I'll find a way to accept myself and release my own self hatred. Um, and yeah, Tasuku's like, it's okay if you don't know. It's okay if you can't figure it out. There's nothing weird about that, and you can take your time. And so that's kind of how they like part ways. They never end up getting together, but they stay really good friends. And um, I feel like it's really, really sweet and beautiful. You don't really see that a lot, where it's like a character, choosing to better themselves first, and like them having this like really honest talk about it, especially after everything that happened in the previous volume. And so that's something else I really like about this story, and that's kind of like a close on Tsubaki's character. It's like that analysis on someone who um, was full of a lot of hatred, but because he was in denial about himself and still needs to work on it. And it's not a change that happens overnight necessarily. So everything works out really beautifully, and we're almost about to get to their wedding. However, with all of this, Tasuku remembers somebody. He remembers Misora and is like, wait, I still have this connection that I haven't resolved or healed from, and maybe this is the time for me to face it. So, let's see. So he does go to Misora's house and sees, like, it's been a long time since Misora has like come to the drop-in center, and he apologizes earnestly, saying that like, I I couldn't understand how you felt, and I probably won't ever understand, and I was thoughtless and prejudiced and arrogant, thinking that I could do something for you, but Daichi and Saki are getting married. I want you to come, and so I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for apologizing. And Misora kind of is like, it's fine, whatever. And he says, and I don't think I did anything wrong, so I'm totally not saying sorry. I remember that part like kind of bothered me, kind of irritated me for a really long time because I was like, but you said so many slurs. Like, you said so many slurs out loud. But yeah, I guess he's young, so it's fine. It's fine. I'm older and more mature now. I think it's fine. You know, like, yeah, okay, it's fine. But I do think, even if he doesn't need to apologize, I do think he went a bit too far on multiple occasions. But it's fine. It's fine. So it seems like a lot of things are coming in order, and we have this like final discussion between um we have this final discussion between like someone's son before the wedding. We have this discussion between someone's son and Tasuku, which I think also was one that like spoke a lot to me personally, um, and like stuck with me a lot. So someone's son doesn't want to go to the wedding because she's like, I would just be like someone in the background. It's fine, because again, she rejects human, like she rejects connections that don't um, mean anything to her. So like things like weddings, she's probably like, I'm not that invested. And so so Tasuku is like, oh yeah, is it like because you're ace? And or not really, he doesn't say it like that. He's more just like, do you really not like fall in love with people? And she's like, he's like, I've never especially wanted anything. And Tasuku really respectfully is just kind of like, yeah, I have a hard time like wrapping my head around you. You know, like you're an enigma. Because like if I gave you this label of you being asexual, at least that kind of um, makes a little bit more sense to me. Like I can see you a little better. But I don't know if that's how you feel. Like I don't know if that's the label you would want at all. And she's like, yeah, being asexual isn't what makes me who I am. So I wouldn't say that that's like what you should be taking and looking at. Um, so she says, that's one faucet. I'm a composite. Think about it. It's not like being gay is what makes you Tuscan, right? And he's like, right. And he's like lost again because he's like, I can't figure it out. And then so she's like, how about I tell you about me? You don't have to listen though, which is like a flip on her catchphrase. If you ask me who I am, I'd answer that I'm the me you think I am. If you think I'm a man, then I'm a man. If you think I'm a woman, then I'm a woman. If you told me I was neither, then I guess I'd be neither. If you think I'm a good person, then I am. If you think I'm a bad person, then I am. I'm tall, I'm short, I'm asexual with an interest in sex. I'm asexual without any curiosity about sex. I'm black, I'm white, I'm neither. I'm in my teens, my 30s, my 60s. I'm clouds, rain, maybe hail. I'm your enemy. I'm your ally. I'm human, I'm dinosaur. I'm not a person, I'm not a bird. I'm an earthling. I'm a whirling pool. I'm a whirlpooling Jupiterian. Jupiterian. I'm not even a fragment of a shooting star. So who am I? And illustrated in this are like a bunch of objects that just keep filling up the panels. Like all these different possibilities keep squeezing into the panels, and Tasuku is getting like squeezed further and further away from someone's son, and he's like pushing through all of these random items to get closer to her. Um, but he's like, I don't want to lose sight of you, and like grabs onto her through the pile of like random things. And he goes, you're right here, someone's son. You're right in front of me, breathing. Your hand's cold, but you're still warm. And that's enough. And with you, someone's son, that's enough for me. And she goes, thanks, and falls backwards off the railing and starts walking through the sky on sparkles again. And I was like, I've never seen anyone put it that way, but that is also perhaps the best way to describe how I feel. I think, on one part, it's like gender is a big discussion, I guess. It's like currently we're always, because a lot of people do value gender and gendered labels, we are put in positions where we have to define ourselves and let people know. And I get it. It's like important to certain people that we know what they want to be defined as. But me personally, similar to someone's on, I would rather be defined as nothing at all. Or I would rather be the one asking the question, like, what do you think I am? And I would let you decide. Or we can leave it as nothing at all. I like that questioning. You know, when I first read this, I didn't really get it. But the more I read it, the more I got it. And I was like, I really align with this. Because I think I just don't like having to define myself, because suddenly it chains me to those concepts or to those preconceived notions, and I was the one who chained myself to it. I don't mind if somebody else chains me to something and like assumes my gender or assumes something about me, because that's just their assumption. To me, it's like I'm a canvas. It's whatever. I I I project what I want, and how people perceive it is however they want to perceive it. But I don't want to be the one to slap the label and end possibilities for myself. I would rather be nothing at all than have to define myself as something. And I've never seen a story capture that so well, because I don't even think that this is about being asexual. Again, she says it herself. That is just one facet of it. It's beyond that. It's beyond just that one label. It's the fact that she doesn't want labels at all. And to her, all labels and all of that is meaningless. Similar to me, I just feel like gender is kind of meaningless to who I think see myself as, or what I define myself as. If I had a list of how I define myself, gender is probably not even on the list, or it's at the really bottom of the list. So then to have to be put in a position where I have to put it at the top of the list, and it suddenly becomes the first hand like impression, kind of irks me, because I would rather tell you something else first. But I get, again, that's just like me. I'm a little bit weird about that. I have some like weird things about that, I guess. I know for a lot of people it's like genuinely valuable and they really do care. Um, but it was just kind of like refreshing to see this depicted in a story in a way that like clicks to me, in a way that actually clicks. And I'm sure it probably doesn't click to a lot of people. When I was younger, it didn't click that much, but that's because like I didn't think about it as hard as I do now. But now that I've thought about this so much and like all the time, it clicks so well, and it almost makes me wish that like I could be I could live my life like this. So free, so mysterious, avoiding all questions. But unfortunately I can't, because I'm too loud. And I the thing is, like, I do care about people. Like I do care about people connections. I just don't care about like societal like concepts or societal cliches. And so I still have a bit more attachments than someone's son does. So I cannot fully lean into this like this persona, but I love it. I really do love it. I wish I could. I really wish I could be so carefree and just not be bound to anything, and be nothing at all, and have people accept that I would just have people accept that I would just never be understood. Well, it's also though, I don't know, maybe I'm too weak or something, because sometimes I do wish I could be understood. And it kind of makes me sad that like no one in this world would ever understand me. But I think like someone on kind of just like takes pride in that that inability for people to understand her, and she can't even understand herself. But that's okay, and is willing to sit with that. I think it's kind of admirable. So, yeah, this scene is really lovely, and I like how like it comes at the really end after we've like explored and discussed things with everybody else, like every single other character. We've kind of explored um what they are, and it's not that like we've put every single other character in a boat or a category, but it's like we've kind of gone to explore how, like, yes, they're in this boat and category, but they're also beyond that. Like, we've seen more about them than just that, to the point where, like, we've understood, like, we don't define them by that one thing, or we sometimes we even got to know them before they even shared that thing with us. So that being the primer to learning about someone san, I think, was a great, like, progression into helping a reader grapple with this concept. Even if they can't fully grapple with it, at least it makes sense that, like, maybe we're okay with not understanding and just leaving it like that. Oh, also because of the whole story with Oyama-san, it's like, okay, like, not everything needs to be understood. Not every connection needs to be forced. Not everything needs to be labeled. We can leave things ambiguous and as it is. So after that, we kind of just have the wedding, which goes really well and beautiful. It's so sweet. We have a moment where Tasuku and Tsubaki arrive first because they're kind of like the ones organizing this wedding, and they see that someone has spray painted, like, hurtful slurs on the building, so they work together to clean it off. And Tsubaki says, "I used to think that people who hate gay people or whatever were just acting out like idiots, but I think maybe that's not it. Like, maybe they can't stand it when people stand out and enjoy their lives. Maybe the noise drives them nuts. I don't know. Another me might have done this." And then he's like, "I've been really looking forward to this day," and he kind of, like, cries because he's really come a long way as a character. He's sort of evolved. And I feel like this is, like, a good point. It's like a lot of people don't like to see other people stand out and enjoy themselves. And I feel like in America, we're lucky that a lot of people do like it, and a lot of people do value it and want to celebrate it and explore it. But other places aren't as lucky, I guess. I think, like, in a lot of Asian countries, while it's not like they have people who are actively hateful like we might have in America, it's also still like they don't want you to talk about it. They don't want you to be loud about it. They're like, you can be queer, but just stay in your lane like the rest of us. And that's sort of what I'm seeing in this volume. But it's it's so beautiful. Misora-san comes in a beautiful dress and says, "I really do like this." Because they haven't been cross-dressing in a really long time, so now they're back and they really love it, and everyone's praising them, and it's, like, so sweet. The flowers are beautiful. Our girls looked beautiful in their wedding dresses, and both of their parents came, and it's lovely. But then Chaiko-san gets a text that Seichiro's in critical condition, and Seichiro's son had reached out to him, being like, "Hey, my father's in critical condition. You need to come to the hospital now." And Chaiko-san is not sure if he wants to go because he's kind of resolved himself to stay out of Seichiro's son's life. He doesn't want to be a part of his son's life because he's like, the two of them finally, like, got back together and, like, bonded. They, like, mended their relationship. I don't want to interfere with that. But someone-san kind of gives him that push. She happens to be passing by outside. She gives him that push, which is a little out of character for him, or out of character for her. It's a little out of character for someone-san to get involved, but she gives him that push to be like, "You should go. You should go to him." And it's kind of like her last lingering, like, investment in other people's affairs, and she walks off smiling. And Chaiko-san ends up showing up to the hospital, and Seichiro's-san is like, "Your favorite person's here," and it's, like, so sweet because the scene of their, like, final words to each other, it's drawn in a surrealist way where, like, Seichiro-san kind of, like, jumps out of his hospital bed and they're both, like, floating in the room saying their final words to each other, and it it got me kind of emotional. I, like, almost cried a little bit, and I've never cried at this part before because I used to be so jaded, but But this time around, now that I'm like older, like I did kind of like get teary eyed because they're just so cute, and it's kind of lovely how the things that they say to each other in these final moments is Seichiro says, "I've had so much fun sharing my life with you," and he's like, "Me too. We've had so much fun." Like they don't like that's what they say. That's what they choose to say to each other, and I was like, "That's so sweet. That's so sweet." And it's like a happy kind of last words. Um, and so the story kind of ends with everyone, still being in at the drop-in center, and like everyone's all happy, living their lives. Um, and Tasuku and Tsubaki are still like friends and everything, and it kind of just ends like that. And the last words are like, and the doors open at the drop-in center again today. Someone-san's probably there. And that's kind of how it ends. And so that is Shimanami Tasogare, my sort of breakdown. But I should still talk about some of the questions I have. I know it was like really long, but if you have the chance, you should definitely read this story for yourself. Because even though I've like described it, it's another experience to read it. I think for this kind of story, like spoilers don't really hold weight because reading it in itself is an experience. And again, I reread this story multiple times, and each time it feels different, even though I know everything that happens. And so, would highly recommend. But for these questions that I have, um, so I think the world and society of Shimanami Tasogare is very, very realistic. Um, Now, there are some parts that are a little idealistic, like, the drop in center is very lovely and idealistic. They're them, rebuilding these houses and stuff. Like, it all seems really peaceful and nice and beautiful. In fact, it's so beautiful that, like, I kind of want to go there. Like, every time I see travel videos, of like the Shimanami cycling trail and everything, I'm like, man, I want to go on a trip there just because I love this story so much. I don't even cycle, but like the views just look so beautiful because like a seaside town, I think. And also they talk about like, but the one thing holding me back is that they talk about how there's a lot of centipedes. Like while they're like rebuilding these homes, like there's so many centipedes, and even in like you're if you're when you have a home, there might be centipedes, and I'm like, okay, that's one thing I don't want to run into. That's maybe the only thing keeping me from visiting this place because I'm scared. Like, what if I'm staying somewhere and there's a centipede? Because one time, oh my god, tangent, but one time, when I was in high school, I went on a exchange trip in Japan, where like we did stay at a high school for a bit, and then we had some like sightseeing touring moments. And for part of our tour, we stayed at a temple, and at the temple, the baths are like a shared bath for each gender. Like it's a shared bath. So me and all the other girls, we were bathing together. And while we were there bathing, one of my friends, a centipede had like crawled out of we put our clothes in like these little lockers. So a centipede had crawled out of her locker, out of her clothes, and she freaked out, and we all had to try and like trap the centipede, and then eventually we just had to call someone in to like help us. But it was humongous. It was like the biggest centipede ever. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like the it was obviously really long, but like its body width was like an inch. It was huge. It was scary. And so if the centipedes are like that, oh, and like the person who like dealt with it for us, this lady like caught it in like those like bathing buckets, and like was like, you just have to like trap it in there and then pour boiling hot water in, and then it'll die. And she was like, yeah, this is like very normal. It's because it's summertime, so they all want to come out and whatever. And I'm like, oh my god, I would no. No, I don't want that. Anyway, that's like the only thing keeping me from wanting to visit this place because I'm scared of potential centipedes because they mention it a lot in this manga. But the other thing about why this manga feels so realistic to me is that aside from how they tackle a lot of these issues very thoroughly and with a lot of nuance, as you can tell, uh, I think this story has partnered with like the tourism association of Shimanami. So they in each like chapter or so they'll have little doodles of different like tourism spots or locations in Shimanami, or they'll have the characters go to like eat ramen and mention like how it suddenly became popular, or like um uh Utsumi does cycle on the famous cycling trail with like beautiful views and stuff like that. And so like, and then also obviously like their whole task of like rebuilding these old houses, that is like a common thing in Japan. It's like a topical issue. Like even the movie Suzume was kind of like adjacent to that as well. So that's why I feel like it's really real. Like I feel like a lot of research was put into the location, and it was a lot of research was put into the location, and it was illustrated in a way that felt so realistic and natural, but like in a beautiful way, in a beautiful, appealing way. And I like how, like, for all its nuance, the story gives a lot of hope. The story is open ended, but it provides you with a lot of hopeful feelings in its open endedness. And that's another thing I just really like about it. Uh, yeah. And I don't think there is actually a story that tackles these sort of LGBTQ issues in as many angles as this story, because they really tried to like find every single perspective, or all the perspectives kind of do weave together really nicely. But there's so many like the different kinds of people like struggling and facing with these topics were all kind of shown to us, which is another thing I really like, because that's why I feel like anybody can connect to it, even if you're not queer. Like there probably are other feelings that you can resonate with here, and that's why this story's so special. And you should definitely read it. And it's like a work of literature. I already talked about what stuck with me quite a lot, and it was someone son's character, because I've just never seen a character like that, and so um, it was really eye opening and kind of made me rethink what I want and who I am, and accepting that like, oh, there's other people out there who maybe think the same as me, but we can't. But here I am in this world of labels, having to um, accept or play along with that, even though deep down inside I know that I would rather be nothing. I would rather be nothing at all than call myself something. That might be my new quote. Not exactly the same as hers, but that's my that's my quote now. Oh man, I had a thought, but it like flew straight out of my head immediately. Like it came in and like it dipped. So it's okay. Any critiques? I don't have a lot of critiques for this story naturally because it's already like so well rounded. I think it tackles as much as it can and it does all that it can. I think my only critique is Misora's character. I Because it is very vague. Oh, like one thing to note: Misora really enjoys someone son's praise and really looks up to someone son. Like really looks up to her and admires her and thinks she's like really cool. And I think that's kind of why I think they're kind of similar. Like I think Misora is probably more, rather than like finding like discovering that maybe they are trans or something. I think rather than that, I think they're more like they enjoy getting to be androgynous, ambiguous, and being nothing, like having no label or getting to choose their label. They're probably more like gender fluid, like getting to choose how they want to be perceived and letting other people answer the question, "What do you think I am?" So I think they're kind of similar in that, so they're probably connected. But that has nothing to do with my gripe with Misora's character. My only gripe with them is just like I think they should have apologized. I think they overstepped some boundaries, and it's never addressed that they've overstepped boundaries. For example, like when they find out that Tasuku's gay, they're immediately like, "So have you ever had sex with anybody, or what is it like to have sex?" And then like constantly like poking fun at him almost, and like making him uncomfortable. And then also there's like the slurs, but I just feel like even that like we never Misora's never taught boundaries or how to handle things more delicately. And again, it's probably just because they're still young. So once they grow up, they'll probably understand. But I kind of wish that um, we were able to resolve that too. But it's okay. That's like such a small issue for the rest of this story and how beautiful it is. So I forgive. I don't think that's like too big of a nitpick. Oh, now I remember what I want to talk about. Um, So Kamatami Yuki, the mangaka of this series, I mentioned Hiraeth, which is another one of their. I think that's like their current ongoing manga series, but it may have been a year or two since I last checked in on it, so it might be completed. It doesn't have an English publication, so I have to like go and find it and like find a fan translation, which is why I don't know the state of it right now. But that story is so beautiful. Like that one, I think that story rather than LGBTQ plus, that story deals a lot more with suicide, life and death. Um, there's three characters. I don't think that one's like really BL either. Although I like maybe personally ship characters, but like I don't think it's actively a BL. There's a girl whose friend has died and she wants to go after her friend. She wants to go find her friend. She joins a god who is fading. He's like actively dying too because people don't believe in him anymore. So this god is on his final pilgrimage to kind of like thank all the other gods on his path to um, death, I guess, being obsolete. And so he's on his final journey. She wants to join because she also wants to reach the afterlife. And they're also joined by another guy who like can't die. He's been cursed a long time ago. A long, long time ago to be in it, unable to die. So he's lived multiple lifetime, not lifetimes, but like he's been around for a really long time. So it's the three of them on this journey. It's a really beautiful story, and I feel like that's the kind of story I wish I wrote, like because it just like speaks too much to things that I think about a lot. So would highly recommend that one too. But also, uh, Kamatami Yuki has another series called Shonen Shonen Voice? Shonen Note. No, Shonen Note. And I haven't finished that one because that one's actually quite long. Or maybe it's a skill issue. Maybe I'm just bad. I'm trying to read it for a really long time because I bought the first one. I bought the first one at a bookstore on a discount. I think I bought the first one, and then I was trying to like read the rest, but I don't even remember where I got to before I kind of like forgot. But that one's about singing and about like a um a boy soprano losing his high voice, his high note as he grows older, or the threat of him losing his singing voice as he goes through puberty. Which I feel like that's another like it kind of does also draw lean into some like you know I guess like androgynous ideas or like gender ideas, the gender discussions or something like that. So if maybe this story you feel like is like too much, maybe you can give that story a try. I need to get back on reading that one, but it's just so long, and I think I have a harder time reading it because um okay, like while yes, I relate to it less. Could be a factor. I think it's more just cuz it's involving like really young children It's a story that involves young children. I think they're like elementary school kids or middle school kids. So it gives me a lot of anxiety. That story gives me a lot of anxiety because of um, the depictions of certain pressures that these kids are going through, whether it's like a child celebrity singer or just like the other kids in the choir who are just like working really hard to win awards, and then our main character um, getting some fame for his voice and feeling a lot of pressure to sing because of that. Like all of those things, like because they're so young, it does fill me with a lot of anxiety, just because I'm scared for them. So that's I think that's what's keeping me from reading that story. That's a bit of a tangent, but like this mangaka's stories are so beautiful and so well illustrated. So many wonderful metaphors and like surreal imagery. Would highly recommend. It's like a masterpiece. And so, okay, now that I'm done with critiques, we can move on to what I forgot to do for Secret XXX, but it's okay because I can do it now. Give me 1 second though to quickly pull up these images. My tier list. Oh my god, it's getting late and I can feel myself getting sleepy, but we're almost done. But I'm glad I was able to talk for this long. I'm glad I had things to talk about for this long. I'm kind of shocked myself. I mean, then again, it could also be just like I was slow. I do think I've spent a lot of time like describing and explaining things, which I feel a little bad about. But if anything, I hope it was interesting to hear, and it wasn't just like I just don't want it to be like a recap. You know, I don't want to just be like recapping the story for you. Okay, wait. Okay. Well, wait. I mean, okay. Sure. You know what? That works. All right. So I'm gonna give it my global rating, like for everybody, and then tier list is just me personally. Now, first we have Secret XXX. I think okay, like to be honest, compared to a lot of other like light, fluffy, sweet stories, I don't think Secret XXX is the best. Simply because it isn't really nuanced. I think there's some other really light, sweet, happy stories that are like really give you warm feelings that are a bit more nuanced than Secret XXX. So, it's not like one that I would immediately recommend. I mean, similarly, like I wouldn't even immediately recommend Therapy Game, just because it stylistically it's hard to know if someone would be really invested in that kind of style. So I would rate. I rated Therapy Game an 8, which is kind of high. I think I talked it up. The more I was talking, the more I was like, wait, I really like it. I think Secret XXX for me sits at a perfect 5, globally. Like just for average people, like whether I recommend it, it's a 5 because it's not a bad. It's a safe recommendation for sure. Like there are some that are like not as safe to recommend or a little bit harder to recommend. Secret XXX is definitely safe. There's nothing in it that's like major red flags. But at the same time, I would rather recommend other things over it. Just like other stories that I think are maybe cuter or softer or more nuanced, but still light and fluffy. Like of this genre, like there's some other ones I would rather recommend. On my personal tier list, oh, I don't want to. I'm like I feel kind of bad if I put it too low because it really wasn't bad. Like it wasn't a bad story at all. I'm like thinking about putting it at C because it wasn't a bad story. It was like readable, but at the same time, like again, like there's some other ones that I think I would put higher up. So I'm almost like, should I put it at a D just to like keep things fair? Because I also like have F, so it's like I feel like hmm. Okay, I'm probably gonna put it at a D, but that doesn't mean because I don't like it. It's just that like realistically, when I'm thinking about it in the face of like other things I might want to put on this list, it's not one that I would think of super early. But it's not bad. I'm just really I'm just really pretentious. I think that's what I'm gonna say. But my rating publicly for everybody would be a 5. Now for Shimanami Tasogare, you know I'm like already biased. I like glaze the fuck out of this story. Here's our protagonist. Oh my god, it's so pixelated. Here's the protagonist, Tasuku. I say, you already know. Recommendation wise, first thing I would recommend to anybody, whether they've read YAOI before or not, this is my first recommendation I would want to give. If I was truly thinking about it. If you came to me and you wanted to know, this is the one I would recommend. This is because it's not a yaoi, but it captures so many themes and ideas, and it makes you understand why people like stories that are yaoi, because we get to see more nuances, or we get to explore things without labels, or to me at least, that's how I see it. I feel like there are less labels in yaoi than there are in heteronormative media. So I would totally recommend this. Number 10, it'd be a 10 out for me, and this is a true S tier. I know I was like, I didn't want to start off with like an S tier, but that's why I started off a therapy game, and I was like, okay, now let's pull out the big guns, a proper S tier, and talk about Shimanami Tasogare. So that is my S tier. Because I didn't want to talk about it too late and then put it in S tier, because truthfully, I'm like, it deserves to be the first one in S tier. Like, this is truly my like number one recommendation. Now, if we're talking about like just yaoi, like I wouldn't say that it's like my number one yaoi, but it is like my number one manga, period. I remember I made like a chart for my top like manga and anime and like movies in high school, and Shimanami Tasogare was like number 2, right after Mob Psycho, I think, on my list of like peak Japanese media. So that's how much I would glaze it. Here it is. Here's my current tier list. We just got 3 only, but hey, maybe I'll start thinking about what I want to talk about next. I do want to do one that's Korean, so I have been thinking like maybe Wolf in the House, but again, like that's one of my favorites, and I would have to go and reread it, and it's so long. So I'm like, maybe I'll wait on that. I was also thinking Semantic Error, because I think I could reread that one easier, and the sides are coming out right now. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think I should do that one yet. I don't think I should do that one yet. I don't think I should. I don't think I should spill the beans on that one yet, either. So I'm really trying to think what's a good Korean one that I'm willing to reread and like would have things to say about. I almost thought about doing Painter in the Night, because I was like, it's so famous. Like, it's probably the most, in my opinion, it is the most famous Korean manhwa to date. There are some more legacy ones like Kingsmaker and like I guess Killing Stalking, but I'm not doing that. But I think Painter of the Night was like is still like in people's memories enough that it's like so famous. But I was like, do I want to reread that though? I mean, I never finished that one actually. Like the thing is, like I never even finished it, and then I was like, is there enough in it for me to actually talk about? So I've been debating. I've been debating what Korean manhwa to talk about. I was like, should I talk about one that I really really like, or not? I do have some others that I have in mind that I'm like, maybe I'll do, but I'm kind of like, well, I guess since I'm just starting, I should be allowed to talk about ones that I really like, and then later we'll move into the ones that I like. We'll throw in some that I maybe like a little less. So maybe I'll do like Mr. 100% Perfect or something, because that one I actually reread pretty recently. But I'll see if there's anything else. Like, I really like Reunion. Oh wait, I was thinking about Love. Shit, what is it called? Love, History Caused by Willful Ignorance. That was what I was thinking of. That is what I was thinking of. I was going to talk about that one, because that one is hard to defend. Well, it's so good to me. Like, I think it's so good, but so many people have like read it and not been able to continue or not liked it. And so that one might be fascinating to do. And it'd be interesting to reread it because that one is one that like the experience of reading it as it updated must feel so different from reading it in one go. Like I liked it so much because while it was updating, they did such a good job of like flipping the script, keeping me off guard, doing cliffhangers. But then would it feel the same if I was reading it in one go? Okay, yeah, maybe I should do it. I was thinking about it, but I was almost like, I don't want to reread it because it like ended recently. I don't want to reread it, and like it's probably too niche. And then what if it stains my credibility? But maybe that's the one I need to do. Is one that's more controversial, and just see what happens. Okay. Well, that is all for today. I can't believe I talked for 3 hours. I didn't think this was gonna go on for that long, and it's already so late. But I'm glad. I'm glad that I was able to yap, and I feel good. I feel good about talking about this one. It like warms my heart a bit. So, um, last time I didn't expect my next stream to be so soon because I thought I was gonna be a bit busier. So this is a little bit of an anomaly. I don't think the next one will be so soon. The next one will probably um be in a bit unless I'm like really bored and then I actually like read something again. So don't expect me again too soon. But I was like thinking like it would be really nice if I could do every week, or like okay, I was thinking like because I do read a lot of things like on the daily. It's just that it's hard to binge an entire thing. So I was like maybe sometimes I can just like talk about whatever latest thing I read or was on my mind and just talk about it really lightly without any structure or analysis. It's just like me talking. If I'm like bored or something. We'll see. I just don't know what I would call it because I want to call this YAOI YAP, but I wanted it to be like episodic. So then I wouldn't know what to call like me just spitballing. I'll think about it. But yeah, that'll be all for tonight. And if you're listening to this like afterwards, or like if you're listening to the VOD or on YouTube, um, I hope you got a lot of work done. I hope it was really interesting, entertaining. I don't know. And feel free to let me know your thoughts or um, tell me what you want me to do next. Okay. See you guys next time.